Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graeme Show. What's happened to the sign? I'm Mike Graeme, of course, and this is the Mike Graeme Show. It's meant to be red. Why is it pink? How's it pink?
Well,
Hang on a minute. Well, I've got the thing, yeah. Pooch is already getting testy with me. Hang on. We want it red, right? Don't we?
Yeah.
What's going on with that? Why is it not going red? Sorry. Anyway, we'll fix that. What is going on with that? I'm getting rid of William Yarwood. William, how are you, man? Very good morning to you.
Yeah, morning, Mike.
Big news today, not only is it St George's Day, William Yarwood's been promoted. Yay! He's been given the title of Campaigns Manager.
Campaigns Director.
Campaigns Director.
I know, Director.
El Director.
I'll be directing campaigns, mate.
Will you be directing campaigns?
I will be,
What is going on with this sign? Why can I not make it red? Why can we not make it red?
Was that red? I think, did you just miss it?
Eh? We were trying to make it red for St George's Day, but it won't go bloody red. Hang on.
It goes everything but red.
It goes everything but red. That's all right.
Red.
That's all right.
Is it some kind of commie sign? That
Yeah.
Well,
No, it just doesn't like Labour.
Yeah, well, it's an anti-commie sign then if it's not going red. That's a good sign.
well, how about that? Is that
That's all right,
Will that
yeah.
do? I'm sorry. My apologies to anybody who is offended by the. But you can see a Union Jack flag. You can see I'm wearing a Union Jack tie. I know there'll be some pedants out there who go, yeah, but it's not a Union Jack. It should be a St George's. I haven't got a St George's Day tie. All right. And if you look at it closely, the biggest thing on it is a St George's flag. Right?
I know.
So you can't really argue with it.
No, you can't argue with it
You
at all.
can see that I'm being patriotic. And of course, we will be covering this story throughout the course of the day. Ellesmere Port Council apparently have been ripping down England flags from people's houses and from various lampposts, saying that it's in some way dangerous, which is ridiculous. First pennant. There we go. Where is the St George's flag? Just Union.
There we go.
Fuck off, Connor. Okay? Sorry. Anyway, we promised not to swear. We promised not to swear anymore. Coming up, we've got Jamie Jenkins, we've got Claire Pearsall, we've got Kzia Noble, we've got Sunil Sharma, we've got a bloke called Graeme Moore, who's the founder of the English Constitution Society, believe it or not. So we've got loads to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
It's been a while since we've seen you, William.
Yes, and I was on a stag do last week, so apologies to go away. But yeah, I had a great time with a bunch of lads down in Cornwall. Then we were in Cirencester for a really wonderful wedding.
Yeah.
Consumed my body weight in booze, nicotine, other vices and virtues, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Excellent.
Bankrupted myself completely.
Yeah.
Ideal. I'm doing me and my friends are doing our bits for the hospitality business.
Obviously, I was going to say, not only for the hospitality business, for the British economy.
Indeed, for the British economy.
Its knees, so well done to you.
Yeah, very happy
Fantastic.
with it.
We've got, of course, you may well have noticed, we've got yet another, political crisis going on.
No, really?
In the background.
Again?
Your favourite, you've got to give us your Starmer impression. Yesterday he was up in Parliament claiming that he was going to hang around. What does he think he's doing?
Well, Mike, I followed the procedure to the letter. Okay, let me be clear. I followed the procedure to the letter, and it was a mistake. It was a mistake.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is the most ridiculous thing. I mean, we're laughing, but I mean, I just want to see the guy gone now, don't you?
Yeah.
What is the point of him? What is the point of him hanging around?
But the funniest thing is, Mike, is that loads of people have been talking about when he's going to go. I think even a Labour MP came out and said it wasn't about if, but when he was going to go.
Right.
But there's actually another view that I actually do subscribe to. Is actually most of the British public, and I remember seeing some polling about this a while ago, British public think that Starmer should go, but they don't think he will.
Right.
And the reason they won't go is because actually Starmer... Okay, actually, let's step back for a second. Let's remember who Keir Starmer really is. How did he become Prime Minister in the first place? Because he's a ruthless SOB.
Yes.
He became Labour leader, promising to basically carry on with the Corbyn legacy, won the election in the Labour Party, and then purged the living daylights out of the party in order to remove opposition and consolidated his power. And then basically won because the Tories became rubbish by the end of it, right? You think Keir Starmer was ruthless trying to get into power. Think about how ruthless he's been trying to maintain his power. And I don't think we've seen the full extent of that yet.
But also, don't you hate the fact that he tries to present himself as this kind of, victim of circumstance and that, all this terrible stuff has happened around him and he didn't know anything about it. Nobody told me. Nobody told me.
You appointed Peter Mandelson, dude. It was literally you who did it.
It was your job. You also told Morgan McSweeney to make sure that it got bloody done. And you also decided to appoint him before he was vetted in order so that he couldn't be undone.
Yeah, right.
Everybody can see what you've done, But you're the only one who's pretending that about it. It is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
It really is. Bad news for him, though, is that, and this is possibly the worst news since James O'Brien came out against him last Friday.
Yes, that was the Labour.
Now, apparently, Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell have said the game's up, right? Rory Stewart, the world's worst political forecaster, and Alistair Campbell, the war criminal. Have a look at this. They do a podcast together. Check it out.
Appointing Peter Mandelson in the first place was a massive lapse of judgment.
Look, it's a mess. There's no getting out of this. This is a mess.
The reason why Starmer's finished is that this demonstrates, above all, that he lacks the two things that he claimed to possess, which is judgment and seriousness.
He's in this mess at this particular time because he made a bad decision.
At what point did Starmer try to find out the truth? Did he actually care at all? This was one of the biggest scandals at the heart of his government, something that almost brought him down. The minimal expectation would have been a bit of curiosity.
What's going on in the background there in old Rory's house?
I've no idea. But also one thing, if Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell are predicting that Keir Starmer should resign, it's not going to happen now. Like, it's officially not going to happen.
Yeah.
These guys get nothing correct about any political
They
prediction
really don't.
they ever have made.
No.
What a complete waste
And
of
also
space these
to
guys
accuse, if you're Rory Stewart accusing somebody of having bad judgment,
Yeah,
and you're
right,
kind of going, oh, you're the guy who said Kamala Harris was going to win the US election.
Yeah,
you
that's,
complete
the
idiot.
pot
And he
calling the kettle
and he
black,
put about 100,000 quid on it, I think, didn't he? Absolute moron. Sue, this is from Sue Jackson. Happiest of St. George's Day all. It's my 65th birthday. Sue, a very, very happy birthday. Many happy returns. What a great day to have a nice what?
Dog in her picture.
Oh, there's a nice dog in the picture as well. So there is. We've got Pooch's Pooch to come up a bit later on, of course. Also, we've got a poll, have we not? Which is St. George's Day related. So let's have a look at that, please, if we can, Pooch. It is, who is the most famous Englishman, I suppose, is the question. And I mean, I'm going to do a meltdown later on all of these lefty bozos who always come out and go, you know, he never set foot in England. He was from Turkey. And, you know, it's like, just shut up. I'm not interested in that kind of mealy mouth stuff, you know.
Well, the reason they do it is because they simply just want to undermine.
Them feel good.
They want to undermine English identity because their entire job is basically like Britain is essentially, and England more specifically, isn't a historic nation. It doesn't have a history. It's basically just, you know, it's this like nation of immigrants myth that has been perpetuated on us.
Like and nobody was ever born in England. Everybody came here from somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly right. And therefore, but then their argument for that is that therefore you must allow the entirety of the third world to live on your doorstep. It's like, well, no, actually, I don't.
No.
And also, England is actually a historic country where people have actually lived here for generations and generations and generations.
Yeah.
And there's many people who have been here for generations who are still
also
here
one of
today.
the oldest civilizations in the known world.
Exactly.
Right? How about this? Who was the greatest Briton? Was it St. George? Was it Churchill? Was it Shakespeare? Or was it one for the teenagers, David Lammy?
I'd love to see the 4% of
He
yours.
gets 4%. Who the hell's voting for David Lammy? We did a poll actually last week when you were away, ripping up Cornwall. And we said, what would we use to block the Straits of Hormuz? And David Lammy was the winner.
Oh, yeah.
Because we thought we'd just put him in the middle and have him bobbing about, you know, like eating loads of stuff.
Like,
you can't get round him.
Like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
Yeah.
like with the woman Violet who chews the chewing gum and then like balloons to a huge level.
Because you can't get round him. I mean, God knows what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, there's nothing on the front pages this morning about Iran really at all.
No.
But I'll tell you what there is an awful lot about the New Deal that Shabana Mahmood has done with the French. Amazingly, we're going to give them even more money than we gave them last time. This time, we're going to give them 660 million quid.
Yep.
Right? And under that New Deal, it's going to pay for 50 specialist police officers who are trained in riot control and crowd control tactics. They'll be deployed to contain and disperse groups of illegal migrants on beaches and deal with hostile crowds.
Yeah.
Well, they're not, are they?
No, obviously not.
We've already given them 550 million, for which the result was that we got about 550 million illegal migrants coming to our
precisely.
shores. You know.
It's like the amount of money we get gives the amount of illegal migrants we get for it. And actually, Mike, this is all parts of... I think we've given France, if we add on this cash, we've given them 1.3 billion quid.
Yeah.
1.3 billion of taxpayers' cash to try and stop the boats.
Yeah.
And where are the results? There aren't any results at all. And also, let's not forget all the money we spaffed to Rwanda, which they used themselves to do nice things and then didn't take anyone at all.
No.
Which then obviously Keir Starmer abolished that deal when he first came into power. So this is just simply like trying to throw money at the problem. And also, interestingly, it was always like, oh, Shabana Mahmood, she's really tough
She's
negotiator.
really tough.
She's really
yeah.
tough negotiator.
They're all really tough,
But
aren't
actually,
they?
it's just, oh, have more taxpayers' cash. Yeah,
well,
there you go.
Shabana Mahmood, in what can only be described as a massive stunt, is going off to Dunkirk apparently today.
Oh, really?
So apparently she'll be presumably coming back on a small boat and coming into Dover. I don't know what the hell she's doing or why she's doing it, but she's been actually quite interestingly absent from most of the Keir Starmer appearances in the comments. She wasn't seen on Monday when he got up to defend himself, which, by the way, 3 hours nearly of him answering questions.
It was pain.
Oh, it was really painful. She hasn't been seen. I don't think I saw her yesterday at Prime Minister's Questions. Didn't see her on Tuesday at the debate in which people were attacking him. So, I mean, does that mean she's one of those who is not in great support of him? Yeah,
well, also, I think she's just keeping her nose clean, effectively, because Shabana Mahmood, whatever you might say of her, she is a relatively shrewd political operator. And, if, in 2015, she was doing videos about how, like, oh, poor illegal migrants, don't we need to give them asylum, let's all give them amnesty. And now she's, to the right of Suella Braverman, supposedly, on migration, although, of course, I question that narrative. I think Mahmood is perhaps trying to angle herself as a potential successor. But the issue is I'm not even sure Mahmood knows this, but the Parliamentary Party might accept her, but the Parliamentary Labour, the actual Labour Party, the party members would never accept her, because she's seen as being too hardline. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons I think Keir Starmer's going to be around. Sorry, folks, I'm sticking with the plan.
See, I disagree with you there.
Okay, interesting.
You're not the only person that said that to me. Kelvin McKenzie, in fact, was here yesterday, and he said not only does he think he'll be around, he wants him to stay around because he wants the Labour Party to have the most damage done to it that can possibly be done in the next 3 years. I think, though, if Starmer falls and the whole kind of edifice around him falls, then it's only a short period of time before we have to have a general election. Because I think that then the economy will fall and the gilt market will disappear, and suddenly it will be like a real massive economic crisis. And that's what I want to see, because that's why. And then they'll have to have an election. Yeah.
Do you think, though, that if say Miliband or Rayner took over, do you think they'd bother going to the electorate? They could just do a Gordon Brown and basically bottle it.
No, they could. Bottle it. But I think that. What I'm saying is that I think that the sort of economic circumstances would get so terrible that they would have to force themselves into an election, because there would be literally no confidence in the government at all.
Yeah.
And the Bank of England would have no confidence in them, the city would have no confidence in them, and they would literally have to go to the country to go, a bit like Edward Heath did, who's running the country?
Not you, mate.
Is it the markets or is it us? It's not. we don't want it to be you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my wish, and I know it's a long... It's a sort of a long way off into the hedgerows, but I just don't see Starmer hanging around. I've made a bet actually with Emma Wolf that he will be gone by May the 8th.
Okay, interesting.
And because I mean, again, if they get slaughtered, if they lose what is predicted to be something like 1,600 to 1,700 seats at the local elections on May the 7th. He can't possibly survive that, can he?
No, I mean, also...
You just sit there and go, obviously it's the Iran war.
Yeah,
but people have voted to change the council because of the Iran war. No, they haven't. They really haven't.
Sorry, a potholes weren't filled, guys. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, and that's somehow relevant.
Exactly.
No, the interesting thing with the local elections coming up is obviously I think Labour is going to get completely trashed in Wales, which is something they've had. I mean, I grew up in Wales, used to live in Wales. They've held Wales under their stranglehold since power has devolved into the Welsh Senedd, now the Welsh Assembly. When Blair did that. And obviously in Scotland, they had power, but then obviously the SNP took over. But actually in Scotland, they are still, I think, second or third in the overall polling in Scotland, which is interesting. Yeah. In Scotland, the Tories have died. They're dead. Labour has been replaced by Plaid in Wales, and the Tories have been replaced by Reform in Wales.
Although there was a Reform poll yesterday that came out which showed them neck and neck with Plaid. So, I mean, they're sort of catching them in a way.
But also, one thing that will be interesting is Labour might see it as a win because Plaid will have to do a deal with Labour in order to keep power. Yeah. So there's now, because the Welsh Parliament was given more powers. They've expanded the amount of members of the Welsh Parliament they can have, so they can have 90 now rather than just 60. Right. So the amount of people you need for majority is higher, which means there's more seats. So and under the system they use in Wales, it's very hard to get a majority by yourself because it's not first past the post. Right. Plaid is looking like they're going to be maybe just in front or just behind Reform, but Labour will have enough seats to be able to essentially get into power with Plaid and therefore keep essentially some level of left-wing dominance in Wales. And Starmer might chalk that up as a win, because at least Labour's sort of in power, and Plaid and Labour don't disagree on a massive amount of stuff, because even Plaid's dropped all the Welsh independence nonsense. So I think that also in some areas where Labour might do better than they expected to do, and the Tories will do this as well, they'll be on the media rotor the next day in front of the councillors that they've either maintained or they've won.
I'm really looking forward
and
to
say,
I'm really looking forward to Keir Starmer trying to make anything out of this election result which is going to come, because of course they'll do that usual thing where they go, well, our lessons will be learned.
Lessons will be learned, procedures will be followed.
It's obviously been a very hard night for some of our councillors. But it'll be really funny if he starts praising what's happened in Wales, because for years the Labour government have ignored Wales, the Labour Party have ignored Wales, because everything they did in Wales was worse than it was in England. And everything the Tories ruined, like the NHS waiting list, were all worse in Wales when Labour was running it.
Wales has been run into the ground for decades, and actually, interestingly, the Welsh have actually never been massively pro having a devolved assembly/parliament.
No.
I mean, when Blair did these referendums, Scotland voted more or less two-thirds in favour of it, as you'd probably expect. The Welsh vote was maybe like 0.5% in favour. So the Welsh are not exactly, like, they don't mind, they don't really care about it. And actually, I think lots of Welsh people are seeing now, which is why they're voting Reform. And interestingly, some people in Reform, because actually the Welsh Conservatives used to have the position of abolishing the Welsh devolved parliament, basically. Reform don't have that position.
Right.
I think they used to, or they used to be interested in that position. But I think now that Reform thinks they can possibly win Wales, they're not interested in abolishing it, because they want to use it as a model for showing, here's what we can do.
We can actually run a government.
Here's what we
absolutely.
can do.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a fascinating night, actually. I mean, we unfortunately, because of the way that it takes so long for anyone to count the election results, we won't probably know that much on the Friday.
No.
Because we were trying to figure out whether we should have a big party with balloons and champagne and, dancing girls and all the rest of it, because we can do that, because Ofcom are not involved. But we're not sure that by Friday we'll know enough.
No, we won't.
I mean, in terms of the counts, as it were, mostly we won't know really until Saturday, and in some ways even Monday, how bad it's been for Labour.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's the green element, which we've not talked about yet, Mike, as well. Lots of areas...
I don't like to talk about the Greens, but you carry on.
But no one really does. But
I don't like to think about it.
The problem is that, like, lots of areas with high student populations who are liberal, affluent, or they're inner cities, Labour has held those places for decades, and they've never really had a proper challenger. But for the first time in a very long time, Labour has someone to their left, namely the Green Party, which is not only just effective, but actually has a history of being able to actually win elections on the local level. And I think what you're going to see is actually not just the biggest winners being Reform and Plaid in Wales specifically, but what you're going to see is the Green Party being very, very chuffed at the amount of seats they've taken off the Labour Party, and their argument is going to be, as Reform's argument has been, basically, we're the only way to get Labour out and also stop Reform getting in. While Reform will say, we're the only people to get Labour out and also stop the Greens getting in their
power.
There
was a strange story that I saw yesterday, and I sort of had to do a double take on it, and it was one of those, I was out having a drink with a friend of mine, and I sort of meant to look at it in more detail later, which I didn't do. But apparently, they've had some meeting at the Green Party headquarters and decided to dump all their crazy policies, like, for example, reducing the speed limits to 55 miles an hour, doing away with prisons, doing away with drug rules, and making it basically legal to take any drug you want. So they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do, but they're trying to look as if they're going to be a more sensible party.
Yes.
But isn't that going to play against them? Because surely the reason that some of the idiots who vote for them like them is because they're not like anybody else.
Yeah, quite. But I mean, the same argument could be made, I suppose, of Reform UK. I mean, one of the reasons there's been splinter parties from Reform UK and Advance Restore, some people have actually gone back to the Tories, is because Reform UK is moderated too much effectively.
Yeah.
And I think that...
But isn't that, I mean, I think that's overestimated.
I think there's an element of that's overestimated, sure, and I don't think you've seen people argue also about the polls, like they were at like 34%, now they're only like 20, 28, 29% or whatever that might be. But there's an element of the electorate that will always be disappointed when a party seems to become more moderate. Yeah. But I think actually rather than on the right, where you sort of kind of expect it, on the left they're a lot more hard line with a lot of their positions and take it very, very seriously. And I think you are right. If they moderate their positions on drugs, on open borders, on prisons, on landlords. Actually, one of the things that wasn't mentioned was they used to want to abolish landlords entirely, basically have it all state-owned. I think they're going to get rid of that as well. I think there's going to be lots of people who've joined the Green Party over the last year
because of those
things, and are going to be thinking, wait a second, but I joined this party
for
those reasons.
Just Labour light.
Exactly.
Right?
And and people will argue against Polanski on those levels. And Polanski's going to have to try and balance that with his seemingly still more radical economic rhetoric on wealth taxes and things like that, which he's still keeping.
Right. So, it's going to be interesting, though, because presumably the argument you would make, or the thing you would say to them is, hang on a minute, which one of these radical ideas is different from another? So, for example, if you're going to do away with your objection to landlords, why would you not do away with your objection to wealthy people?
Yeah.
Why are you keeping one and not keeping the other?
He would argue probably priorities, and he'd also probably make the argument that there are things in the country that need solving immediately, such as, for example, filling gaps in the public finances, which can be solved by a wealth tax. But basically his view on, say, house building would be like, well, okay, for the moment, house building is so bad that we need to keep private landlords for a certain period of time and then eventually phase them out over time. So that's like one argument he could make. Whether Green Party voters buy it, of course, is another thing.
And is he going to stop doing the old bondage themed dance classes in Hyde Park? I mean, because obviously quite a lot of people like that, but the sort of the Gaza types don't like it because they're rather socially conservative.
Yes, they are indeed.
So, I mean, I think, and as I suspected would happen, that I think the Green Party will sort of self-destruct over the course of the next few weeks and months, because in the end, you can only be wacky and crazy for as long as you're not popular. As soon as you become popular, you've got to suddenly go, actually, if we're actually going to get into power, or we're going to get, because a lot of people think they're going to win a lot of seats in London, you're going to suddenly have to embrace responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to suddenly have to be responsible.
Yeah, and especially if they get in charge of councils and they realise that actually they can't just endlessly spend more money on public services, because, as we've talked before, there's various statutory straitjackets on local councils in regards to social care and send, as well as other things imposed by Westminster, which actually suck up, over 50% of some councils' budgets. And while, of course, Reform UK and even the Tories have showed that there's ways to reduce waste in local councils, the Green Party will come in and realise, cruddy hell, we can't actually just spend trillions and billions of pounds and everything. And also, we can't effectively just go and ask for more from council taxpayers, because they'll see that as a sort of betrayal of the position we gave them, which is, we're not like the other guys, we're going to do things a lot differently.
And we're going to get all the money from the rich people, so we're going to give you money back.
And also, one thing they might do, which Labour councils and Lib Dem councils have been doing, is they might double down on this second homes premium thing. So basically, some councils have been charging basically 100% council tax on second home people who have second homes. So basically, effectively forcing them not to have second homes. But all that's done, basically, Mike, is basically push richer people out of the local area. And if the Greens do that, well, then they can't squeeze the rich for any money, because there'll be no rich people to squeeze, meaning that working class taxpayers pick up the bill.
It's a pretty obvious, sort of situation, isn't it? It's a bit like, with Rachel Reeves on a more macro level. The reason loads of people are leaving the country is because you keep taxing them. And there's a limit to how much you can tax people before they disappear. And that is the problem. And they don't seem to understand it. I mean, inflation yesterday up to 3.3%. It's a really, really bad number. It's not going to be good for the economy. We're borrowing more and more money. That she's talking about issuing war bonds, right, in order to borrow even more money. And I mean, the economy is literally in the absolute crapper, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this endless doom spiral where basically the government borrows more money to fund things, and then they realise that's not enough to fund anything, so then they borrow more money, but that increases the national debt, so they change the way they measure debt so they can borrow more money, and then it just goes in this endless doom spiral. And the only way to break it, really, Mike, and this is a very brutal truth, is you just have to cut off the sodding taps. You turn off the sodding tap and you say to people, there
isn't any more.
There isn't any. We can't just endlessly afford and endlessly pay a bunch of things, and we're going to have to do some pretty drastic government spending, not just in relation to government waste and migration, but also some big areas which people, even watching your show, might care about. Because guess what, guys? We're screwed. And actually, if we don't do this, this country's going to go bankrupt, meaning that for your kids and your grandkids, there isn't going to be a national healthcare service. There's not going to be a police service. There's not going to be the basic things like bins being collected and potholes being filled. You're going to essentially live in a quasi-bankrupt third world country.
Yeah, I know. Well, we already feel like we're in a quasi-bankrupt third world country, to be honest. We're going to talk to Hugh Andre about this coming up in a little while. He's here from We Serve, former Army Colonel. Is it Colonel? No, Captain, wasn't it? captain. My apologies. Some would say that, yeah. I wouldn't be one of them. He's been reserved because there's a massive story on the front page of the Telegraph today about Lord Hermer, who apparently is being accused by the Telegraph of pursuing a notorious witch hunt against British troops, despite being warned that the allegations were lies. And this is the scandal of these poor characters from various... And this is leading to a lot of people leaving the army and leaving the armed forces, leaving the SAS in particular, resigning over the last couple of weeks. Emails and legal documents show that Sir Keir Starmer's closest cabinet ally acted as lead counsel in civil claims against the Ministry of Defence, pressed for lucrative compensation, despite mounting evidence that his 8 Iraqi clients were on the make. This is a massive scandal.
Yeah, it's a huge scandal. I mean, and also, isn't Lord Hermer also the person who's defended like loads of bad guys in the past, basically? And his argument was always...
anyone is an enemy of the state, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Lord Hermer's represented
And of course, Lord Hermer also involved in the Chagos dealers, let's not forget that as well. So this guy has basically just endlessly worked against British people's interests and the Britain's interest for a very long time and made tons of money out of it, basically. And now he's right in there in the cabinet sitting next to Keir Starmer, and he's one of Starmer's
Although he's gone
top
very
guys.
quiet of late. He hasn't suddenly, put himself up on Newsnight or anywhere else to go, Keir Starmer's the greatest Prime Minister we've ever had. I think we should stick with him. Like all fair weather friends, he's kind of gone to ground and he's not saying anything.
Which is interesting because even when Boris Johnson and Liz Truss got attacked, there were still various cabinet ministers going on TV every 5 minutes going no, I've got full faith in the Prime Minister, let's go for it.
Yeah, but Starmer's got none of that.
That's been the big difference this time, hasn't it?
Even Pat McFadden, who is sent out as the kind of enforcer, came out the other day, and when he was asked if he agreed that Keir Starmer was right to sack Ollie Robbins, he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't actually be drawn on it.
And Miliband on, was it Good Morning Britain, just sort of he sort of slumped into his chair, didn't he? And went, well, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
and also he told Sky, told Sophie Ridge on Sky that he had objected and she said, well, who did you tell? And he said, well, I had a conversation with David Lammy about it. And we both agreed that it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's definitely toast. Actually, what we should do, Pooch, if you don't mind, can we play a bit of PMQs from yesterday? This is Prime Minister's questions. Keir Starmer. I'd like to say it might be the last one he ever does because he's proroguing Parliament next week.
He is indeed for local
Do you remember
elections.
the fuss there was about Boris Johnson proroguing
Yes,
Parliament?
I do,
People were taking him to court. There was that Joanna Cherry woman up in Scotland. They were taking him to court in Scotland to try and make it to change up there. Anyway, so there's no PMQs next week because the following week, obviously, there's the election. But this is Starmer yesterday.
Mr. Speaker, let's be absolutely clear. Before Mandelson took up his post, UKSB recommended with red flags that clearance should be denied, and there was high concern that was not brought to my attention or the attention of the Foreign Secretary at the time or subsequently is a very serious error of judgment, and anyone in my position would have lost confidence in the former Permanent Secretary. But, Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition claimed on Friday that Mandelson could not have been cleared against security advice. She was wrong about that. Yeah. She said that ministers must have been told. She was wrong about that. She claimed there was deliberate dishonesty. She was wrong about that. Wrong, wrong, wrong. She rushed to judgment as she always did, just like the Iran war. Mr. Speaker, I was elected by the British people because they let the country down for 14 long years. Whatever she says, whatever noise they make, nothing is going to distract me from delivering for our country.
Somebody obviously told him, what you got to do is go into Prime Minister's questions and look like you're really confident and you really, really think that you're going to be wrong. Yeah. Why don't you tell us whether or not you knew that Lord Mandelson had an interest in a Russian company?
Yeah.
The question he keeps avoiding. He's been asked about 5-6 times now in Parliament, refuses to answer it. Why don't you tell us what's happening to Morgan McSweeney's phone and whether or not you're still pursuing the police about that?
No one talks about that.
Investigation. Morgan McSweeney, though, is going to have to appear before the Select Committee, Foreign Affairs Select Committee on Tuesday, which I'm looking forward to very much. Because I wonder if he's got the message on his phone or not. I don't know. But the whole thing, the guy, it just sickens me. Starmer now literally induces, a sort of a gag reflex, vomit, whenever he just turns up, because he's such a complete an utter bozo, isn't he?
Yeah, and also the problem is that, as we saw there, you see the faces of his cabinet ministers behind him. Lammy just always looks like he wants to blow his brains out, basically.
He hasn't got any, though. He's got to find them first.
Yeah, Reeves basically always looks like she's just come back from a night on the town.
Yeah. And her husband's just left her, so she's in tears. And Richard III.
And also, as you can see, when you expand the frame, various other cabinet ministers look more and more miserable and more depressed about the entire issue. And
it's over. Because it's done.
And also, the interesting thing is that none of them know that they're really able to make moves against Starmer. Because Streeting's too close to Mandelson. Rayner's still got a tax affairs to sort out. Mood wouldn't be accepted by the party. Miliband can't really take over because he wouldn't fly well with the electorate.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, what are we supposed to do?
Now?
What are we going to do? We can't get rid of this. We want to get rid of this guy, but we can't get rid of this guy. And even if we get rid of this guy, we're still not going to suddenly win.
No.
So it's just
it's a disaster. The whole thing is an unmitigated disaster. And for a guy who came in, as he says, I was elected by the British
people.
No, you weren't, actually. You were elected by a very small number of people.
Yeah, he was.
With a very tiny amount of credibility.
Less votes.
And the only reason he got in was because he wasn't a Tory.
Yeah. He got less votes than Corbyn did in 2017 and 2019. And that was Jeremy Corbyn, right? And Jeremy Corbyn had a terrible defeat in 2019. But the problem with all of this, and the problem with all of this, is that it's always Starmer's, and this was in his speech on Monday night at PMQs, it was Starmer's smugness about how clean he is. How and
transparent.
You should have done on Tuesday. Actually, you guys should have done a drinking session on your Tuesday show for how many times he mentioned the word procedure. He mentioned procedure like a billion. I followed the process to. That is genuinely his favourite term. And when various Labour backbenchers stood up and tried to defend Starmer, do you know what it was about? This Prime Minister is the best ever on procedure and process. It's like, oh wow, I'm so glad that's the top ranking thing we need from a Prime Minister is he cares about the bloody process when he appoints paedophiles to ambassadorships.
I know.
It's like, oh, great fun. God, I've missed this, Mike.
It's been good to see you, man. Absolutely brilliant. One final one for you. I'm not really buying this story at all, basically, but it's one of these scare stories that it's on the front page. Fed us away to the front page of the Sun. Millions of phone users face having data rationed or being hit by surge pricing at peak times after the Iran war sent energy costs soaring. I just don't believe that. I just think it's cobblers. Yeah. And I think it's the phone companies pretending, here's a good excuse for us to put prices up. Yeah,
it could be, but I mean, with all these things, I mean, it's hard to possibly predict. I mean, with the fuel stuff, for example, that was objectively caused by the Strait of Hormuz closing and then reopening and then closing again, and then I don't know where it is now.
That was my favourite moment actually of last Friday, where Keir Starmer comes out of his meeting with Emmanuel Macron to announce that we're going to work very hard to open the Straits of Hormuz, not realising that they'd already been opened and shut again.
And then over to shut again, but I'm not sure I fully buy this story, and I don't think people should panic or worry about their phone bills going through the roof. I think people should still be quite worried about fuel, though. And actually, we at the Taxpayers Alliance are going to be attending the Reform UK's fuel duty protest rally on Monday. We'll be there. We'll be going along, which will be good fun. So if other people watching in the audience are going to be there, do come say hello. What time? It's 9 a.m. on Monday morning, so obviously you have to.
Well, we might have to get you on from down Whitehall way.
Down in Whitehall way.
Get you on a live cam.
Down Whitehall way,
because I think there's going to be tractors and all sorts going on.
Yeah, I hope so.
Farmers' protests.
So a few of us will be down there, which will be good fun. But people should still be worried about fuel rather than their phones.
Yeah, absolutely right. Good stuff. William, great to see you back.
Great to see you, mate.
And congrats again on becoming the new campaign director, no less, of the Taxpayers Alliance, a very fine organisation which we have an awful lot of support for here at the Mike Graham Show. Coming up, Hugh Andre's here. He's going to be talking to us about We Served, and of course he's also going to be giving us his view on this story about Lord Hermer, who apparently has been outed by the Daily Telegraph as having mounted a ridiculously outlandish campaign to try and screw money out of the government, of any government in this country, on behalf of some Iraqi scumbags. We'll find out what that's all about after we hear from the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes for the last time this week. The delectable Fiona will be standing in for me tomorrow. Keir Starmer's still clinging on in number 10, despite the Mandelson vetting fiasco exploding in PMQs. Kemi Badenoch told him to pack his bags and go. but he'll probably just spin it as decisive action. We've signed yet another £662 million deal with France to stop small boats, this time with riot police for the hostile crowds. Brilliant. That'll definitely work this time, unlike the last dozen. Meanwhile, Rishi Sunak pops up to remind us AI is killing entry-level jobs for young people because graduates needed more good news. And on the world stage, we're all holding our breath over Trump's Iran deadline while prepping for food shortages. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you, Edward Hughes there with the news. Like and subscribe, please, to the channel. Shall I say anything about the UK Live channel, or are you not worried about it? Yeah, we've got to do a little maintenance on the UK Live channel. So if you used to watch it on the UK Live channel, we're not going to be able to let you do that today. So just please keep watching it. I'll be back in a few days, we're told. But loads of you watch, 12,000 of you watching right now live. Is it 13? Sorry, I'm a little bit behind. But also, we're very nearly 17 million views. We're about to pass that, and 156,000 subscribers. So thank you to all of you. And please just do like and subscribe, because the more of you that like it, the more of you that subscribe to it, the further we reach, the better we go, and the better it is for everybody, really. We now have the first and second most popular YouTube breakfast shows in the United Kingdom. So, you know, you don't want to miss out. You tell all your friends. Hugh Andre is here for the first time, I think. Welcome to the new, what do you think about new home?
My second time. Second time. I came down with the legend that is Lieutenant Colonel Steve Wall.
Oh, you did, of course you did, yes.
Our ops director.
Yeah, how are you?
42 years.
You're looking very well.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm decided to get up on Sunday morning and run the London Marathon.
Oh, God.
Having done 2 so far this month.
Okay.
This will be my 3rd.
Right. Well, I take my hat off to you personally, but I hate the marathon.
Me too.
Because it shuts off all of London, and I had a massive rant about it a few weeks ago, because they're now talking about making it a 2-day event in the future, because there's so many people who want to run in it. Yeah. And they're talking about running it on Saturday and Sunday, and I'm like, no, because I can't get home, basically, because you run right past my house.
Yeah, I absolutely hate running, and honestly, I'm absolutely useless at it. I'm better at running a bath than I am at
But you're doing it presumably for a good cause.
No, do you know what? This is interesting. So, as you know, Mike, I've been having some sort of counselling on NHS Op Courage, which was set up to help veterans who've had severe trauma. Yeah. And I've got halfway through, then I decided to set up We Served to help others find the support and services they need, because it took me so long to get that support and that help. And I got halfway through, and I went back last week and said, look, I'm ready to complete now. Yeah. We're going to get really acute and focus on the real issues. And they said, yeah, that's wonderful, Hugh. We have someone available in 9 months.
Crikey.
And I said, look, that is absolutely, soldiers die. They take their own lives. I'm lucky. Look, I'm finishing something I started because I need to do it for myself first. And to be brutally honest, running marathons every Saturday, it's kind of good for my nugget. Yeah. It keeps me out of pubs. Yeah. Keeps me off the beer, and I feel a lot better for it. But you know, the whole point of We Served, we got 5.1 million veterans and their families. Yeah. You know, and everything you've done to support them and to raise the issues, and we'll talk about the witch hunt that's gone on, because I know that some of the individuals involved.
Yeah, I mean, as if there aren't enough problems with coming out of the forces, right?
Yeah, and I, you know, suddenly you're part of a family, and then suddenly you're not. You know, it's like if you're married for a long time and you lose your partner, that it's loss and there's grief. But in this instance, when you leave, you join at 16, and you know, and as Steve Wall said, you're told what time to wake up. Breakfast is at that time. You collect your weapons from the armoury at that time. You get on the coaches, pick up your packed lunch, but you get back at 6, and then you're in your own time. And you tend to go to the naffy and have a beer or two, and go to bed. And then all it's done for you, and it's done for a reason, because when you join the military, they take the civilian chip out of your head, and they put in a military chip, and they have to, because they've asked you to sign a contract of unlimited liability. Yeah. So the people who start going after soldiers, sailors, airmen and women, they've never had that military chip put in the back of their head. That military chip enables them to engage and kill the king and our country's enemies. Yeah. And we do it to protect others, to save lives. Yeah. for others.
And you do it because you're asked to do it.
We do it because we
You don't
choose to do it.
No, but you don't do it because you go, oh, there's somebody I'm going to kill.
No, of course not.
You get told there's somebody you're going to kill.
100%. We have a Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
And you know, and we hear that. And by the way, no one is above the law. No one in the military is above the law.
Yeah.
And you know, in Northern Ireland we had something called the yellow card. And over the years it became more and more onerous, more and more complicated. You know, and I'll give viewers an example. In West Belfast, I get shot at. You're in a city, so the sound just bounces around. So you do your thing, you surround the building, and you see someone coming out with a weapon.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you go, "Oh, you shoot them."
Right.
But when I was there, you couldn't, because the opposition had got smart, and the shooter had handed that weapon to someone else. Now, if I can give another real-time example, Helmand Province, and this is a member of staff who worked for me.
Yeah.
He was a sniper, and they were under attack for 3 days from one Taliban position.
Yeah.
And the British soldiers couldn't understand how they could keep engaging, because you have 30 rounds in a magazine, it runs out. So they must have had a resupply for 3 days. So he watched, and then suddenly he saw just the top of their head pop up, took his shot, down it went.
Right.
And within 24 hours, the position was taken out, and they went forward to clear the position.
Yeah.
And the poor sniper, and the sniper has suffered ever since from that one shot, because what the Taliban had done was dig a trench, a very small trench, that only a child could move up and down without being seen.
Right.
And unfortunately, the shot he took the life of a child.
But was the child using the weapon?
The child was resupplying all the ammunition.
Oh, I see.
The Taliban had used the child
Right.
to do it. He didn't know that. He was like 800 meters away. He had a child a similar age. And to this day, he has severe PTSD because of that shot, which he did in good faith, assuming, who the hell would get a child into a war zone and a battle? They did. And he suffered from that. So when we see people like Harmer and what's his name, Shiner and co, going after servicemen and women.
Representing Iraqis.
Yeah. I ask all of you who judge, you go and do the jobs of those soldiers on a daily basis. You go out of that patrol base every single day for 6 months, not knowing whether you'll come back. And then we'll listen to your view. But what's going on at the moment, and members of the SAS...
But this is why the SAS are now resigning, right?
Yeah,
en masse.
100%.
You've got Keir Starmer on a submarine talking about how he really, really respects the armed forces. Nobody believes a word of that, do they?
Look at the state of them.
Yeah.
We've got soldiers running around Salisbury Plain at the moment shouting bang because they haven't got any blank firing ammunition. We've got edicts going out from main building in Whitehall saying, please carry out training only if it's free and doesn't cost anything. And the sooner we have a government that says, first and foremost, defence. Our duty is to protect our people, our shores and our country. And honestly, if I was Prime Minister, I'd put agriculture under defence, I'd put utilities under defence, I'd put the NHS under defence. Because in a time of war, that's what you need. You need your armed forces, you need agriculture to feed our own people, you need to keep the power on, and you need the medical services.
Right.
All of those should be grouped under
Surely
one.
you also need to stop people coming here illegally who may wish to do us harm. They've now arrested, I think, about 15 people about all of these different arson attacks in North London, who all appear to be working at the very least at the behest of, if not possibly directly
100%,
funded,
and I've been saying,
by the IRGC, all of whom have probably come here on small boats.
Yeah, and I've been saying for years, we have an embassy in every country virtually around the world. Right, why isn't there an immigration office there?
Yeah.
And by law, you have to go to that immigration office and apply in your country of origin.
Yes.
If it's not passed, you can't go. If you then come, we will arrest you, and we know where you're from because you've been and had it turned down, and we'll send you back.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't sound difficult, does it?
Well,
doesn't sound difficult.
Let's just get on to onto Sir Keir Starmer, our great leader, and I'm just going to use a great
Captain Calamity,
a great military phrase that all soldiers, sailors, airmen will be very familiar with. Is never give an officer a map.
Yeah. Well, if you gave him a map, he wouldn't even know what to do with it, would he? I think that's the point.
And you know, on a more serious note, you know, when you in the military, when you take your first sort of course in leadership, whether as a lance corporal or an officer cadet at Sandhurst, you're taught about the values and the traits of a leader. And number one was always courage.
Yeah.
And courage comes in two forms: physical courage on the battlefield, but moral courage.
Yeah.
The courage to make the right decision. And I'm afraid...
And to stand by it.
And to stand by it. Moral courage, which I'm afraid that decision with Mandelson was lacking.
No.
In bucket loads.
Everybody knows what happened, right?
Yeah.
Nobody believes a word that he says. Nobody believes any of his mealy mouth. He's still banging on about yesterday about, you know, the procedure and the process and all that. Everybody knows what happened. He wanted him to get the job. He forced it through. He told Morgan McSweeney to push the civil service to make it happen so that by the time it had to be unravelled, it would be too late.
Yeah.
So that it didn't matter whether or not he was vetted or he passed the vetting or he failed the vetting, because they would go, well, he's already in the job now. The Americans have said yes. The King said yes. We've said yes. We can't undo it now. That's what they did. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
You know, forget about it. Just move on and just bloody well resign. Have the courage also to sometimes admit you're wrong and go.
And
that's also necessary.
And you were talking with Kelvin yesterday. Why I don't blame half the youngsters for not wanting to fight for their country. By the way, you don't fight for your country. You fight for the man or woman stood next to you, first and foremost. Yeah. Then you fight for your country. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, and you know, we've already got, I mean, we're not quite at your level, Mike, but we've got 20,000 veterans already who've joined We Served. And please, if you're out there, if you're a veteran or your mum, your dad, your uncle was, tell them about We Served, because it's free to join. You know, and as you know, we provide everything in one place, from jobs, training, healthcare.
Yeah. Website's on screen, and you're always very, very good at pointing out, because I made this mistake the other day, because Hugh's going to join us in a live show. We're going to have you as our kind of, and I don't know which other way to say it. We said as our kind of nominated charity, but it's not a charity. No. And you're very clear on that.
Yeah,
it's an organisation to help people.
Yeah, We Served as a business, and there's a reason for that. There are 2,200 military charities in the UK, all trampling over one another. Yeah. And unfortunately, as I always say, kind of a bit like divorce lawyers, make money out of misery. Yeah. And that narrative is really starting to grate with the veterans community, that we're all mad, bad and sad. And you know how many great, inspiring veterans I brought on the Veterans Voice. Yeah. We are not victims. We are not charity cases. Veterans are assets. And there are some great companies out there at the moment that we're working with. I'll name them: Babcock, FNZ, BGIS, Gem Engineering, who've seen EasyJet. They've seen the opportunity to take veterans, upskill, retrain, and get a return on their original investment. Yeah. So, you know, we are a business. We're not a charity. We give to the charities that our community asks us to. Yeah. But on the night of May the 6th, Mike Graeme live show, all donations given are going to go to retraining veterans as trauma therapists. Okay. Because I mentioned that I've been told I've got to wait 9 months. Op Courage.
That's mad, isn't it?
Op Courage and Op Restore. Yeah. Both brilliant organisations within the NHS. Op Restore looks after veterans with physical injuries, Courage mental. Yeah. Each one has, wait for it, the sum total of about 12 staff. Wow. 12. And we have a tsunami coming down from Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah. So we've got to support the NHS. We're going to take veterans, we're going to retrain them. They've probably got lived experience. And retrain them as trauma therapists. And who gets to
talk to the other people who have been through the same thing as them, right?
And veterans help veterans. Okay. Great things happen.
That is great.
Before I finish,
you've got something in a bag here.
Yes, I have.
What have you got?
In the words
Happy St George's Day, by the way.
Happy St George's Day, indeed. In the words, of John Noakes, Peter Purvis,
right?
Yeah, Valerie Singleton. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Valerie Singleton. I love Valerie Singleton.
I prepared earlier.
I went on a golfing trip with her once, which is another story altogether. But anyway, off you go.
And I'm going to give a big shout out to Frances Whaley, who loves your show. She watches it every morning.
Yeah.
I've known her for years. She's an absolute angel, and she is our community manager. So I'm here, Frances, on your behalf to present this to Mike, and I know you'll meet him on the 6th. I thought this could sit very nicely next to the Union Jack.
Very nice.
You've been badged.
We serve.
You've got the cap.
There we are.
Yeah, and
fantastic.
Also, for the summer, there's your We Serve
T-shirt. Excellent.
T-shirt.
Excellent. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
By veterans.
Look at that. This is great. It's a great. Because some people just don't know how to do a logo. Your logo is brilliant.
Army, Navy, really Royal Air Force, Royal Marines.
There we go. Look at that. A nice little hoodie as well.
And
lovely.
Do you know, as I said, Mike, I can't thank you. We can't thank you. The community can't thank you enough.
Mate, listen, I'm doing it. I'm not just doing it for you.
So we are inviting you
to
become the first non-military. I know you did a tour of Bosnia.
Yeah.
Ambassador.
I'd be delighted. Oh, wow. I would be delighted. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for your support.
No, listen. Hugh, how long have we known each other now? A few years?
A few years now.
A few years now. And it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure to know you, pleasure to meet you, pleasure to meet some of the people you brought in to the show and some of the people that we've told their stories. It's been amazing. And we will always be with you, honestly, because, it's such a great cause, because the people who you represent are the greatest of Great Britain. In the end, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the people that we should be celebrating.
And when the call does come, our veterans will step up. There's enough young ones who'll put on the uniform again because they know that it's the right thing to do, despite who's in charge.
Yes, and no matter what I say here about how awful the bloody government is, this is still a great country and it's still a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to fight for.
And we serve the country, we serve the crown, and we serve our people. We just do, whomever the crown appoints, we work for.
Of course.
Which is why I'm always non-partisan. Whoever's in charge, so be it.
Yeah.
But it's the crown who appoints them.
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful thing, and it's such a great organisation. So I can't wait to see you on the 6th.
Looking forward to it.
We've got a little video that we're going to show. He will be on stage with us, and also you will be able to, if you're coming. If you haven't got a ticket yet, by the way, if you needed a reason to come, now you've got another reason to come. Go to Ticketmaster where you can still get tickets.
May I just say one more thing?
Go on.
So, for viewers out there, as I said, it's a business, and I wanted veterans to have a chance to own some of it.
Yeah.
68 veterans have invested.
Have they?
In We Serve so far. We raised $1 million last year and $450 from friends and family the year before, and we've got 250,000 left to raise, so we can launch all the housing, accommodation, training. And so, if there's anyone out there who's an investor or fancies being part of our journey, then please get in contact. We've got something called EIS, which gets whatever you invest, you can claim 30% back in the tax year. But we would welcome anyone who want to be part of this journey. And as one of our Blythe Masters, one of our advisors said, Hugh, this is an opportunity to do good whilst making good.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. And that's what we're all working towards. We're doing the same thing here, you know. Do something decent, make money doing it, but also help a lot of people along the way.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. I like it.
Thanks, Mike.
Fantastic. Hugh, see you on the 6th, if not before. I'm sorry to hear you doing the marathon, but good luck with it on the weekend.
That's right.
And I disappear out of London when the marathon's on because I come back after 4 o'clock when the bloody roads are open. But there we are. Anyway, listen, great to see you, Hugh Andre from We Serve. What a fantastic organisation! What a great guy, and what a fantastic cause. We've got Keir. I can't even. Oh, we got Sarah Pochin. Oh, I didn't even know that. Sorry, Sarah Pochin. Who? Nobody told me you were coming on. Sarah, very good morning to you.
I can't believe no one told you. I've been patiently waiting.
I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I was, wandering about with my We Served hat and my, my
But anyway,
just
say good morning to Hugh from me. I've met him, and it's a wonderful cause.
He's a fantastic guy, and what a great job he does. Anyway, listen. So what a lovely surprise to have you sitting there, looking absolutely radiant. We're only 2 weeks away from the biggest result in probably Reform's history. One would imagine. for God's sake, can you please promise me that if it hasn't happened by then, very shortly afterwards, Keir Starmer will be shuffling off this mortal coil and disappearing and no longer darkening our doors as the Prime Minister?
Absolutely. I'm about to go up to Lancashire and get on Richard Tice's Reform bus and do some campaigning today. I'm very pleased to report that it's a beautiful day here in the northwest.
Yeah.
So I won't be getting wet. But yeah, absolutely. Look, the Prime Minister is just a walking shell, isn't it? There's nothing left of him. And of course, they won't get rid of him until after the May the 7th results, because we very much think, and as the polls agree, that Labour will take an absolute hammering on May the 7th. So no one's going to want to take over before then.
No, I mean, I'm funnily enough, I was talking to somebody the other day who said actually, if they were smart, the Labour Party, they might get a bit of a boost actually if they get rid of him before the election, because he's the guy who's responsible for everything going horribly wrong. And as he sits there and talks about the process and the procedure and all of that, you know, they might, I mean, nobody would be blamed. I mean, even if David Lammy was put in charge now, they wouldn't be blamed for the terrible, I know it's funny, isn't it? They wouldn't be blamed for having a bad election result, because they'll always blame it on Starmer. But they just need to grow some cojones, don't they, the Labour Party, and actually put somebody up to say, look, it's time for this guy to go. He's an embarrassment. He's shockingly poor at his job. And he's taken this country literally down into the gutter.
I think that's what concerns me most, is the fact that this great country, and of course I should have started off by saying happy St George's Day, and I love your tie. That's wonderful. And it's also my son's birthday today, so what a great day to have given birth, St George's Day. I did that rather well, didn't I, Mike?
Well played, yes, well done. Yeah. Very good timing.
But the point is that, you know, this great country, and you point out we are still great despite everybody else's attempts not to be proud of us. We are still proud of our country. But this Prime Minister just doesn't seem to be able to operate either at home or on the international stage. He's an utter embarrassment at both. And of course, I think the problem is people, whatever party the leader, the Prime Minister is at the time, they want to be led by somebody who has the courage of their convictions. And yet we don't know, do we, what this Prime Minister stands for, because every time he makes a policy announcement, he's U-turned on it within 2 weeks.
Well, apparently, not only do we not know what he stands for, he doesn't know what he stands for either, because nobody's told him. You know, they didn't tell me that you know, they were appointing this guy. They didn't tell me that he didn't pass the vetting. They didn't tell me that Morgan McSweeney lost his phone. I mean, how is it possible for somebody this vacuous to be running the country? My answer to that question is that I don't believe a word he says. And actually, he knew perfectly well that Peter Mandelson didn't pass his vetting. He knew perfectly well that Morgan McSweeney was ordering people around in the civil service. It's impossible for him to run the country any other way, isn't it?
Look, he's either incompetent or he's lying.
Yeah.
It's one of the other, and neither's great. Look, I asked my second PMQ yesterday. My first one I asked within 5 weeks of being appointed as a member of Parliament, and that of course was the famous burqa question. Everybody remembers that one, don't they? But you know, there was a very, very important message behind that question. And yesterday I got the opportunity to ask my second PMQ. So I'm sure he was delighted about that. But once again, he did not answer the question. So yesterday, I asked the question of Keir Starmer, why doesn't he put all the energy he puts into forcing friends of paedophiles into top jobs in the government, and for example Mandelson and the US ambassadorship, why doesn't he use all that energy into stopping the national scandal that is the ongoing grooming gang scandal? And I I was quite determined to say it as it is. I said it's Pakistani grooming gangs raping and torturing vulnerable white girls. And it's ongoing, Mike. It's ongoing.
It is.
And whilst this Prime Minister is dealing with all of this nonsense and showing us how incompetent he is, every single day that a politician doesn't act, more girls are getting raped and tortured by these vile rape gangs, which is what they are. And still nothing's happened. Still no inquiry has started. But let's be quite clear. An inquiry will look at what's happened historically. This is still ongoing.
Yeah.
I was in Bradford campaigning last week. It's still ongoing. It is rife.
Right.
And every day that goes by, girls are suffering.
Yeah, it is absolutely extraordinary. I think we've actually got the clip. Shall we have a look, Pooch?
Yes.
Shall we?
Prime Minister fails to act or even acknowledge Pakistani grooming gangs that rape and torture vulnerable white girls. More victims continue to suffer. Whilst he spends his energy forcing friends of paedophiles into top jobs, why not use that energy to stop this national disgrace?
Mr. Speaker, I spent many years prosecuting paedophiles who are now in prison, so I really don't need lectures from Reform about this.
He's so rude and just ungracious, isn't he? He's just an appalling bloke, you know. And he I mean, I saw Liz Kendall at the weekend going out, being trotted out to the various morning rounds on Sunday, where she said, you know, nobody has done more for saving the livelihoods of women and girls and keeping them safe than Keir Starmer. Absolute and utter rubbish. You know, there's hundreds of men crossing the channel even as we speak, right, in this reasonably good period of weather that we're having.
Yes.
Most of whom will be coming here to stay for good, most of whom we have no idea who they are, most of whom may or may not be willing and able to commit crimes against women and girls here. And he's doing nothing about that. So for him to continue to pretend that he's the great sort of, you know, protagonist who fights against violence against women and girls, it's just rubbish.
But on every level, he is not protecting women and girls.
No.
For example, you know, the Supreme Court ruling was a year old last week.
Yes.
Still, nothing has been enacted about that ruling on women are women, men are men,
Yeah.
and businesses and changing rooms and toilets and schools should implement female-only safe spaces.
Right.
He's done nothing about
Yeah.
it. He's sitting through Bridget Phillipson, but of course it all comes back to the Prime Minister, is sitting on that guidance. And we know why, because she's told the Equalities and Human Rights Commission to dumb it down so that we don't upset the trans lobbyists. I mean, who is the priority here? And then, of course, when it comes to the sentencing bill, prisoners, sex offenders, domestic violence perpetrators, all being let out of prison early, back onto the streets to reoffend in order to free up prison spaces. So on every level, he's letting down the safety of women and girls.
Yeah. And just one final one. Front pages today, the Times in particular, have got Shabana Mahmood off to Dunkirk apparently today. She's going to be promising the French another £660 million to stop the boats. I mean, you and I both know the chances of them stopping the boats are, you know, from slim to none. They're not going to stop the boats. We're going to give a load more money to the French, who are going to do nothing with it other than just buy probably, you know, a load of parasols or something.
Look, do you know what? She's even offered them £40,000, hasn't she, for a family of four,
Right.
to go home. I'm amazed she doesn't try it herself. Why don't she go to Dunkirk, get on a boat, pay herself 40 grand, keep going round?
It's it's the world's worst Airbnb, isn't it? You know, it's ridiculous. Most expensive way of moving people around the world.
Joking aside, look, it's an absolute farce. The British people couldn't care two hoots if Shababa Mahmood goes off to Dunkirk today on a little jolly. The fact is, we've paid the French far too much money. They stand on the beaches. We watch the old gendarmes wave off the boats, don't we? Of course, the French will do nothing to stop that route. And they're coming through from Belgium now, we hear as well, don't we? So they're coming down the coast from Belgium, hopping on the boats in France, and we're getting even more. So the Belgians are passing them through now too. We are the laughing stock of Europe. If Reform are in, we will have the Navy or what's left of it in the Channel, and we will be turning these boats around.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. It's the best surprise I've had for a long time, actually.
Thank you.
Very happy St George's Day, and we shall see you very, very shortly, soon, hopefully in the studio. Sarah Pochin there, MP for Runcorn and Helsby, out there doing the reforms campaigning ahead of the elections, of course, on May the 7th, which they are predicted to absolutely romp home in massive numbers. So much so that Keir Starmer will probably, if he hasn't done already, will have to shuffle off and leave his job, which would be marvellous, wouldn't it? A couple of super chats before we speak to Claire Pearsall. One from LTL. Happy St George's Day. Thank you very much indeed. Happy St George's Day indeed to you. Daypop says this. Happy St George's Day. An Englishman, a Scotsman and an Irish would all walk into a pub. Clearly it's a far-right meeting and they all get arrested. Yeah, I'm not surprised that would happen. Mike says this. Good morning, Mike. Hope you have a great St George's Day. Love the show every day. Could you give my daughter Amy a birthday shout-out? Yes, of course. Happy birthday, Amy. Well done. Catherine says, Joe Rogan even stated on his podcast, it's like your leader is deliberately trying to tank your country, talking about Starmer. He says, Starmer is, as far as I'm concerned, a tyrant. I don't believe he is dumb. I believe he is evil. I think you're right, Catherine. I don't believe he's dumb either. All service personnel, past and present, thank you for your service, says Jane Ferguson. Jane, thank you very much indeed. And I know you sent a message yesterday about your parcel. I don't know what I can say about that because we haven't actually had much parcel activity for a while, have we? Mike, many are asking, please confirm the address to send gifts. I think we have to give them the PO box down in Sussex, don't we? Have we got that to hand by any chance? Which is this one, the Mike Graeme Show, PO Box 257, Battle, East Sussex, TN33 3FS. That's the best place to send it. So it's the Mike Graeme Show, PO Box 257, Battle, East Sussex, TN33 3FS. There is an slight issue with that particular PO Box address because for some reason, because it's run by the Royal Mail, apparently they don't like parcels that are too big. Which is a bit weird, but I mean, it's just you got one job, guys, right? You take a parcel or a letter, you hold it in a place for people to go and pick it up, for which the people pay some money. I don't understand why they can't manage to do that, but anyway, so that's the address. So if you do send anything, please do send stuff that way. And I know, Cindy, you're wondering about the cufflinks. We have tracked them down. I will put them in my shirt one of these days, and I'll let you know when it's going to be happening. But right now, let's talk to Claire Pearsall, who is here, of course, former government advisor, a very, very sensible woman indeed. A very happy St George's Day to you, Claire. Welcome to the show.
Happy St George's Day to you too. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad at all, not bad at all. Although I was hoping by now that Keir Starmer might have at least done the decent thing and fallen on his bleeding sword, which he still hasn't done. But it's looking not good for him, is it?
No, it's not. This week has been piling on the pressure, and the most interesting part of it all is actually to watch the faces of Labour MPs on the benches behind him, because they started the week slightly concerned, and by sort of midday yesterday, they looked like they would rather be absolutely anywhere else. And I haven't seen too many of them coming out on social media or on broadcast rounds to support and protect the Prime Minister as they would have done previously. So I think they're all getting a bit fed up of the constant chaos from the man at the top. And they certainly are having conversations around the place. They were yesterday, little huddles of people trying to work out what they do next.
Yeah. And I mean, we were told last night from sources at The Independent that there was definitely room in the cabinet for conversations about the possibility of replacing him. There was some suggestion that a couple of senior members of the cabinet, unnamed as far as we know, are actually quite keen to just shove him out the door. What are you hearing about that?
I think you always get these kind of rumours, but the one problem with the Labour Party is they're not very organised when it comes to getting rid of a leader. So it's a complicated process, but also they take such a long time focusing their attentions around who would be the best candidate. Yeah. None of them are organised. None of them have a campaign ready to go, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I be wrong with that, but they just don't have the same kind of instinct as Conservative MPs clearly do, because we've done it numerous times. But there is definite discord, and there is definite I suppose posturing from cabinet members, because they are desperate to say that they aren't as bad as the Prime Minister without actually saying that. They want to look supportive, but they also don't want to dent their own credibility by defending a man that is practically indefensible.
Well, right. And also, I guess like all of these situations, they don't want to sort of go too early, do they? If say, for example, Angela Rayner decided to have a tilt at running the party and she sort of went for it and failed and fell short, then that's it for her. The career's over. So, but I mean, I think the people of the country deserve better, don't they? Because, you know, we shouldn't be subjected now to this nonsensical kind of, you know, sort of power play that goes on behind the scenes. We should be given the right, in a way, I don't know how you would do it, but it's almost like we should be given the right to make a judgment and say, actually, no, we don't want you anymore.
Right. I mean, I think the main way that the public has their say in all of this is at a general election, and that clearly wasn't the Conservatives' time back in 2024, and quite a lot of us were warning of what a disgrace a Labour government would be. But we had dented the public's trust in politics and the Conservative Party, so quite rightly they handed us our notice. But there is no other way of doing this, and I think we would be wrong to suggest to change the system so that there would be a public vote on things like this, because we would endlessly be at the polls. And I don't think any of us want that. We want a government to get on with the job. But I do think you're quite right that nobody wants to take over the mantle at the moment when you've got a set of quite large local elections looming in only a couple of weeks' time. Nobody wants to take over and have to bear the responsibility for what is going to be a particularly bruising time for the Labour Party. So I think that we have to hold our nerve. We have to work, especially as Conservatives, to actually be an alternative to that particular government. Obviously, other parties are available just for transparency purposes, but I think Conservatives need to be a lot more on message and a lot stronger in the policies that they have.
Yeah, I mean, the sense I get, though, is that the Tory party as a kind of campaigning force isn't doing very much. You know, I don't see much campaigning going on, and people say to me that the Tories are going to get even more battered in the local elections than the Labour Party are.
I think it's really hard when you are on the back foot, as Conservatives are, to get the enthusiasm of people to go out and talk to people, knock on doors, deliver leaflets, because of the abuse that they will get. Now, some of it will be quite right. You can have pointed conversations on the doorstep. I've had a number over the years, and I've done it a long time. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but I think it's important to have them. But I do think that there is an awful lot of abuse. People are fearful of going out there at the moment, and that shouldn't happen. And that's happening across all parties. This isn't just confined to the Conservatives. So you can understand, I'm quite a tough old bird, so I'll go out there and be prepared to have those conversations. But if you're a younger person in politics, it's quite frightening. It is quite intimidating. So I can see why people are reluctant to want to be able to do that. But the Conservative Party as a whole needs to be much better at messaging, especially on social media.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at what Kemi Badenoch had to say to Robert Peston on his show last night.
I mean, we saw from the last government what a disaster it was to change prime ministers in the middle of a parliament. So why would this be good for Britain now?
Because the current Prime Minister that we have is not governing. He's just standing there. He can't manage even a simple appointment process in his office, hiring a national security risk despite warnings. Why should we think that he can run the economy or even our defence? We have former Labour defence secretaries, former NATO secretary generals saying the Prime Minister has a corrosive complacency when it comes to defence. That's not a reason to keep him there.
That is certainly not a reason to keep him there. And this is what I'm saying, is that, you know, I think many people would agree with me that we're at a point now where we should maybe have another mechanism rather than waiting for him to kind of, you know, decide that it's time for him to go, or to be finally convinced by his aides that it's time for him to go. The one thing that I am looking forward to is Morgan McSweeney being summoned to the Foreign Affairs Committee next Tuesday, because hopefully, and I'm not a fan of Emily Thornberry's, but she's actually been quite good, I think, over the past few days. I'm hoping they're going to ask him all the right questions, because I want to know where his phone is. I want to know why we haven't seen the CCTV footage from the police of when his phone was stolen. I want to know why he can explain that, you know, there is no absolute backup on that phone. And I would ask you, actually, if he sits down in front of Emily Thornberry, you know, what messages were on your phone? And let him explain.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be absolute box office on Tuesday morning. I'll be in Parliament, so I shall look forward to hearing everything that goes on. And it's also quite interesting to lurk around the corridors outside to overhear conversations. But I think that there are some really serious questions to be asked about the people around the Prime Minister. We know that the Prime Minister is no good, and I would love for nothing more than to see him leave very, very soon. But all of the people around him need to bear some responsibility too. Morgan McSweeney is the architect of the campaign around him in Number 10. Also close friends with Peter Mandelson. So you're right. I want to know where his phone is. I want to know why it wasn't backed up and why they've taken such a lackluster view of security that he thought he could just report it to the police and have done with it, and without mentioning what he did for a living. It's quite important. So hopefully Emily Thornberry will be on her best acting behaviour as we hope for that committee, because I think that it really will give us an insight into what has gone wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Claire, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great St George's Day. Shall we just run the poll quickly past Claire before we go any further? We've been asking who the greatest Briton is. Is it St George? Is it Churchill? Is it Shakespeare? Or is it David Lammy?
It's got to be the great Sir Winston Churchill,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Well, listen, you are very much in tune with our viewers then in that case. 74% of people so far say definitely Churchill, absolutely not Lammy, who comes bottom at the moment, 4%. But there you go. Thank you very much indeed. Claire Purcell there with her considered view of what will happen over the course of the next few days. But doesn't it seem right that we should have some kind of mechanism as the public and as the paying public of this country and as the taxpayers of this country so that we can actually remove a Prime Minister once it gets to a point like we are now at, where he just won't go, you know? On Substack, by the way, if you haven't joined it yet, you can do. It's the MikeGrahamShow.com is where you find it. A couple of people are having a conversation about what makes Britain great or what makes England great. And Mr. C says this: it's the home of common sense, the love of dogs, the full English, pork chops, the countryside, hard-fought shores. Carol suggests a Sunday roast, afternoon tea, cricket, the English coastline and Wimbledon. There are so many things to be proud of in this country, and I refuse, quite frankly, to let that get away from us. You know, as we said to Hugh Andre, it's a shame that we see that so many young people, as we did yesterday, say they don't think they would ever fight for their country. And on St George's Day, I think it's a good time to remember that there's an awful lot that's still good about this country, an awful lot that we should fight for, and an awful lot that would be worth fighting for should it be necessary to do so. And I think a lot of people would actually fight for it. And I don't care if there are plenty of people in this country now who don't belong, who don't like England, who don't really share its heritage or its traditions and don't want to celebrate it. Well, they can all bugger off as far as I'm concerned, you know, because we are Great Britain. Today we celebrate being English. And at the end of the day, there is no greater country, in my view.
Quick comment, really, Starmer.
Yeah, is this from John Swift? Okay, here we go. So he only likes Faulian Ukrainian swords. Yeah, well, I see what you're saying there, and we will be carrying that story when indeed it comes to us, which will be very shortly. Right now, though, time to speak to Jamie Jenkins down in Welsh, Wales, because he is here, of course, with his usual roundup of the week's statistics, and we're going to talk a bit about inflation, we're going to talk a bit about economy, unemployment, and what on earth is going on the borders as well. Jamie, very good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Mike. Yeah, remember we used to have a government that looked after the economy, but I don't think have we even heard from Rachel Reeves for about a week or so? Is she still alive?
No, I mean, apparently there was a suggestion at the beginning of the week that she was having a meeting with some bankers to say to them, what are you going to do to kickstart the economy and safeguard people's, sort of money? To which, of course, they would all say, well, hang on, you're the one that's ruined it, you stupid woman. You know, inflation yesterday up to 3.3%. You pointed out to me yesterday on your Substack that when they came into power, it was only 2%.
Yeah, Mike, and if she's having a meeting with the cabinet, it wouldn't be bankers; it'd be something beginning with W, I think. Mike. That's probably been going on. But yeah, when that's the core thing. So the government will probably, and Reeves will be blaming Trump now for all our economic woes and inflation going up. You know, always somebody else's fault. It's either Liz Truss, it's either the weather. You know, it's always somebody else's fault. But basically, when they took over power, Mike, inflation was 2%, and that's in line with what the Bank of England's target is, to try and keep inflation around that level. And before the Iran war, it was 3%. So we were already 1% above the inflation target there. And part of that we've talked about in recent months is increasing the cost to employers with all of the taxes and national insurance hikes and things. And so we've seen it creep up from 3 to 3.3%. And now this is in part mainly down to the increase in fuel prices. But the government had choices here. They couldn't, and we've discussed this a couple of weeks ago, they could have cut fuel duty, a temporary cut in fuel duty, because that would have kept inflation down. And why is keeping inflation down important, I suppose, Mike, is that you think of the government borrowing, and we've just had some figures 7 o'clock this morning, so we can touch on those in a bit. But on the government borrowing, when inflation creeps up, a lot of our debt is linked to kind of inflation. So inflation goes up, the interest payments that you pay on that debt goes up. And then another thing, that if you're on benefits, state pensions, or just generally the welfare state, they generally increase those benefits with inflation as well. So if inflation goes up, the benefit bill will go up. So she could have cut fuel duty to try and keep a lid on this. And the sad and the bad thing is, Mike, I'm expecting inflation to go up again next month, because we haven't seen the full effect of the petrol prices in the data. And what happened in April? And the living wage went up, costs to employers went up as well. So it's probably only heading in one direction when we talk about this in about a month's time, Mike.
Yeah, exactly right. Because everybody I talk to tells me about how everything now is more expensive than it was. I mean, if you go back even 6 months ago, you know, to your sort of weekly shopping bill, the shopping bill is now at least another 20% more expensive probably than it was. And so I always argue that actually the underlying rate of inflation is a bit of an underestimate in a way, because food inflation, which I talk about a lot, and so do you, is much higher than 3.3%, isn't it?
Yeah, well, food inflation is creeping up, Mike. And remember, you know, food, when you take the overall inflation basket, that just pretty much takes every product you can buy in the supermarket. And ultimately what you'll find is that certain products are going, I think meat, that's something that's been going up quite a lot. And the big call out, I think, on food inflation, Mike, will be, I think there's a lot of fertilizer stuck over in the Middle East. So if that doesn't get through the kind of to all of the farmers, that will have an impact on crops for this year. So that could think, and ultimately what's coming down the line, Mike, and this is a failure of this government, a failure of the last government. You know, governments are there to serve us, not for us to serve them. It's the fact that we will start seeing energy prices creep up for consumers now when we get the new price cap coming in. Remember, Reeves and Starmer were kind of cheering on that they've reduced our energy bills, but actually they put our taxes up far more than they've reduced our energy bill by taking some of that green levies off. And when energy prices go up for consumers, obviously that hits us in the pocket as well. But you know, businesses don't have that same price cap, so energy prices for businesses will be going up already. And we are a country, Mike, that relies on imported energy. How can a country like the UK, supposed to be one of the global leaders, and it can't even get its own house in order, to rely on importing energy from abroad? And when you do that, that has a big impact, Mike. And what happens? Energy, everything uses energy. So producing food uses energy, basically housing the businesses, when you want to warm the businesses up or just produce anything. Energy goes up, feeds through every single thing in the economy, food, everything, Mike. And the government needs to get a grip on it. And
there's no indication, is there, that they're going to reduce VAT or they're going to reduce fuel duty or anything like that? And supposedly, this £150 we're better off by because they've reduced our energy bills. I haven't seen that coming. I don't know anyone who's gone, oh, isn't it great? I'm paying 150 quid less a year for my energy. Nobody's saying that.
No, but they're giving 150 quid back, Mike, but they're taking over £800 in more tax. Since if you're not working, you're probably a little bit better off. But basically, they keep taking our tax. So the money, the figures that came out this morning, Mike, was the borrowing figures. So we borrowed another 12.6 billion in March. That's about 7 o'clock this morning. So in the last financial year now, 132 billion. Now it is down slightly on the previous year because of the government keeps putting up taxes, but why we're not getting the debt down as much as we want. So what we've seen in the last year, Mike, so they spent 28 billion more on running the government. So the cost of running central government's up now to over 460 billion pounds. Literally massive amounts. And they're increasing the public sector. Who voted for that? Benefit bill has gone up another 21 billion pounds. So we're spending way over 300 billion on that. Debt interest is going up as well. So that's basically dead money. That's just paying to basically borrow. So ultimately, Mike, the answer is not to continue to squeeze the public, squeeze businesses, squeeze workers, which is what they continue to do. You've got to make the state smaller. You've got to make it leaner, cheaper, and just cut government. That is ultimately what we've got to do, because we can't get a grip on this, Mike. And Reeves, you're right, though. They haven't done nothing on the fuel. Literally nothing. She's gone quiet on that. What do they do? I think they got some of the petrol bosses in, didn't they? To say, "Oh, you're gouging us all out with prices."
They started blaming them for gouging everyone when they take 52% of the bleeding money from every litre of petrol that's sold. You know, and I tell you, what's a great allegory for the state of the nation, right? I've got a story that I'm going to be introducing on Plank of the Week a bit later on. HMRC spent £186 million clawing back £44 million in tax from people who had underpaid because they'd taken a loan out and not paid the proper amount of tax on it. So they've literally spent, more than almost 5 times the amount that they collected on collecting it. And that's what's wrong with the country. That's what tells you what's wrong with it. I mean, what sort of idiot would do that?
No, and that is the biggest problem with the country, Mike. That is ultimately, the government takes loads of money in tax and then spends lots of money giving tax back to people in benefits, or this example with HMRC, where they're basically trying to claw back money, spending money on the state to try and do that. Ultimately, Mike, if we got a smaller state, I'm a big believer, a smaller state, let people keep the money that they've already got in their pockets. And ultimately, the workers know what they want to do with their money. There's no point taxing us and giving us money back in certain kind of either through the benefit system or through tax breaks. Ultimately, that's what the government needs to be doing, Mike. Get the things that... And what else have we seen this week, Mike? The biggest thing on the employment figures that we've come down, and this is a real worry for us overall, is that we've actually seen around 266,000 jobs, I think, overall come down, Mike. And that's workforce jobs, and nearly all of those are self-employed jobs. Most, the self-employment, those are the people who take risks in the economy. Those jobs are coming down, Mike. And why are they coming down? Because this government is not pro-business, and people don't want to take those risks. Yeah,
absolutely right. Final one for you. Obviously, the future of Wales up for grabs on the 7th of May. I saw a poll this morning which Reform have put out saying that they're pretty much going neck and neck with Plaid. The belief was that Plaid Cymru were going to walk it and certainly get to run the country, even if it was with some kind of coalition scenario. Reform probably coming second. But, I mean, is there a chance of an upset? I mean, could Reform actually win?
Well, even if Reform become the largest party, Mike, it's very unlikely that they'll be able to actually govern Wales, because you need to get over 50% of the seats then to actually run the government, basically. So it's looking, they are in the latest polls neck and neck with Plaid Cymru, but Plaid Cymru then will have the option then of potentially doing a deal with the Green Party, the Labour Party. I think everybody has said, even the Conservative Party, don't seem to be too keen on working with Reform. The Conservative Party won't get enough seats to work with Reform, Mike. So it could be a situation where we have Reform as the largest party, but they then can't govern Wales because the progressive left, is what they call them, lock them out. But that's quite common on the continent. Mark Drakeford has already talked about this. Mike, remember old Mark? He's not standing this time, Mike. So we are seeing the back of Mark. Thank God for that. Yeah, thank God for that. But that's pretty much where things are heading overall, Mike. So it's not long now. I think it was a couple of weeks' time, 2 weeks. 2 weeks today. Everybody's going to the polls. So let's see what happens. And say if everybody wants to keep abreast of everything that's going on, they can get over to my Substack, Mike. Just stick Stats Jamie into Google. It'll be the first thing that pops up, and we'll keep abreast of every single week on the show here. So
good stuff, and we'll talk to you this time next week as well. Jamie, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins there, ladies and gentlemen, from the Welsh Wales, giving us his view on the world as it stands, and certainly the inflation figures are not doing any favours to Rachel Reeves and her claim that they're sort of somehow steadying the economy and the calm hand is on the tiller. Absolutely not. Craig says this: is there a genocide against the English? No, is the straight answer to that. It's like one of those questions in the Daily Mail, the answer to which is always no. Craig says this: who represents England in Parliament? Well, I would say everybody who is a constituency MP for any constituency in England represents England in Parliament. I know that it's a common view and a commonly held view, and we've got a story this morning about Ellesmere Port, where apparently the local council has been going around taking St George's Day flags off lampposts and taking them out of people's hands and telling people they can't fly them. It's always the same, isn't it? There are so many ridiculous, stupid councils in this country where they somehow think that flying a flag of St. George is in some way detrimental to the country, which of course it isn't. Man from Kernow says, cheers, Jamie, top advice. We're going to be speaking coming up very shortly to Kzia Noble, political commentator, host of UK Now and reform candidate for Kensington and Chelsea. Sunil Sharma is going to be with us as well, plus Graeme Moore, the founder of the English Constitution Society. We'll get his take on how things are going here for St George's Day, which of course it is. And also Henry Harris Burlan is going to talk to us about AI, because yesterday when Kelvin McKenzie was here, he was asking the question, can we get somebody on who can tell us exactly what the unfortunate nature of AI is going to mean for the employment of particularly young people? Because at the moment, it looks as though AI is killing off an awful lot of job opportunities for the young people who are coming out of university without any particular qualifications. But the sort of entry-level type jobs that they would normally expect to get are no longer available to them because of AI, because those jobs can be done literally by a robot. So we'll find out from Henry Harris Burlan exactly what is happening out there in the big wide world. But before that, shall we have some news with Edward Hughes?
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes for the last time this week. The delectable Fiona will be standing in for me tomorrow. Keir Starmer's still clinging on in number 10, despite the Mandelson vetting fiasco exploding in PMQs. Kemi Badenoch told him to pack his bags and go, but he'll probably just spin it as decisive action. We've signed yet another £662 million deal with France to stop small boats, this time with riot police for the hostile crowds. Brilliant. That'll definitely work this time, unlike the last dozen. Meanwhile, Rishi Sunak pops up to remind us AI is killing entry-level jobs for young people, because graduates needed more good news. And on the world stage, we're all holding our breath over Trump's Iran deadline while prepping for food shortages. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed. That is, of course, our man with his finger on the pulse, as well as many other things, Edward Hughes, with the news. He's been behaving himself quite well lately, although I did ask yesterday about Fiona MacLeod. And she's back apparently tomorrow. She's doing the shift tomorrow, is she? Yeah. Which is good news. Edward, well, he's probably having a day off. He's maybe taking the family to the park or something. I don't know if he's... his wife's left, but he's still got to take the kids every now and again, hasn't he? A story on the front page of The Times, by the way, which I haven't mentioned yet, suggests to you that if you do have an older sibling, it might not be good for your health. Apparently, a lot of people in this study that was undertaken by the University of Edinburgh, which followed 5,000 children from birth to 14, found that firstborn children score higher than their siblings in IQ tests, and that the gap appears in the first year of life. So, if you've got an older brother or sister, they're going to be cleverer than you, apparently. Pooch, you got an older brother or sister?
Older sister, younger brother.
I've got an older sister who's very much cleverer than me. It has to be said, you know. If you think I'm clever, you should meet her. She used to do all those really, really, intensive sums. She used to work in Wall Street and in the city markets and stuff like that. And she could, sell you a lac of gold or something like that, or a length of copper without you even knowing that you'd had all your money removed from your bank account. She's very clever. Anyway, right now we're going to talk about AI, because AI is the boon of society and or the absolute dregs of it, depending on who you talk to, depending on which bit of it you want to pay attention to. We're going to talk now to Henry Harris Burlan on what the forecast is like for the future, because a lot of people are asking the question whether there's going to be no room for certainly entry-level type jobs for graduates coming out of university. Is it worth actually even bothering to go to work if your job can be done by AI? Henry, very good morning to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, not at all. Very good to talk to you. I think for a lot of people, AI is a bit of a mystery, isn't it? They kind of they know the phrase, they've heard about it. They can go onto Twitter and use Grok, or they can use ChatGPT to find out, what the best way is to get from here to Slough. But there's a kind of, I think, a bit of ignorance around the area of what AI can do or is already doing, in the workplace. Tell us what's sort of where we are on the curve, if you like, of AI.
I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of people right now see AI as maybe a smarter Google. And they're experiencing AI as a chatbot. I type in a question, I get an answer. That's fantastic. It isn't that. It's much more than that. And the issue, I think, that a lot of people are finding is that the general population aren't seeing or using AI to its full capabilities at the moment. So, we saw this morning, I think your news presenter just mentioned it, Rishi Sunak came out and said that he's seeing a flattening of the job market, especially for these entry-level jobs, Gen Z taking the hardest hit. There's been reports coming out every single day that sort of tens of thousands of jobs are being erased because of AI. Some of it is hype. It's not all real. There are some companies that are using AI as an excuse to cut jobs, which I also think is quite interesting. But the reality is that the tech industry alone cut nearly 80,000 jobs in Q1 in 2026, most attributed to AI. But, we're talking about Gen Z right now taking the hardest hit. There are obvious reasons for that. Basically, these entry-level jobs are possible to be done by AI right now. That technology is available right now. AI can control your laptop. It can click your mouse. It can type on your keyboard. It can browse your Chrome extension. It can create documents, and it's smarter than you. So if you have a job that involves sitting at a desk, clicking your mouse, typing on your keyboard, just know, and this is the scary thing, if I'm honest, just know that if that AI has the right context about your business, it can probably do your job right now. That's not going to happen for a number of years because it does take time to filter through, different industries. But the scary thing is that technology is available right now. And the next thing I would say is Gen Z's first, but well-paid middle managers, they're next on the chopping board.
Right. Because presumably we are sort of at the beginning of, if you like, if you define it as a curve, as I'm trying to do, we're at the beginning of that curve. And so as we go through the next few years, presumably AI is going to get better, it's going to get quicker, it's going to get cleverer, it's going to get faster, and it will be in a position possibly to do an awful lot more for companies than it currently does.
Well, everything I say right now could be out of date in 3 weeks' time, which is an amazing opportunity and incredibly worrying and scary and unsettling, because the speed of progress is like nothing that the human race has seen before. I'll give you an example. Like when the car replaced the horse, it took maybe 40 years. Now, right now, AI is doubling in capacity and speed maybe every 12 months. So everything we're learning right now is almost out of date in 12 months when it comes to what we're trying to retrain just from an AI perspective. But if there's a small positive, optimistic take here, and I know some people do like to make these analogies and examples, some of them are overly optimistic, but let's go back to that horse and car taking 40 years. No one could have predicted that when the car replaced the horse. Everyone's worried about the everyone that works with the horses, right? They're all gonna lose their jobs. That's true. There's no denying that. But no one could have predicted the petrol stations that were created from the roads that were then created, then the villages and towns that were created because people could get access because of cars, and the shops that were created on the way to these different towns, etc., etc. There's these multiple different layers of opportunity that are unseen by us right now, and jobs that are completely unknown to us right now that will be created in the future. So I'm an optimist. I think you have to be an optimist in these scenarios, if I'm honest. My recommendation would be for everyone to stay open-minded. But the issue, going back to the core point here, is the speed of transition with this technology is like nothing anyone has seen before.
And is there anything that AI can't do, which it will never be able to do, for example? I mean, we obviously work in what we would like to think is a creative business. You mentioned our newsreader there before. Our newsreader, I'd be interested to know what you think of him, is an invention, right? And people who look at it go, is that AI? And we don't tell them because we don't want them to know. But I've obviously just given it away. Sorry.
Well, you might be pretending.
Oh, I could be wrong. Yeah, but I mean, I always say, for example, with what I do in terms of my input to this business, I don't know what I'm going to say from 1 minute to the next. So I'm not reading the news. I'm not, delivering, something straightforward. I'm kind of being more creative than that. But I mean, I know that I've spoken to musicians, professional musicians who have said to me, it's been quite scary because if you ask AI to produce a song in my style and have it sung in my style by me, they can do that. Is there anything that AI will never be able to do?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question. And what I would say is that, there was an interesting take by, I think it was the CEO of BlackRock, one of the largest investment companies in the world, trillions of dollars under management. And they were saying that over the last 100 years, society has highly valued, culturally valued work from lawyers, investment bankers. These are the people that are most paid and well paid in our society. And that's about to flip on its head. And it's blue collar work, the plumbers, the electricians, that might become the most respected and valued work over the next 100 years. Right. So there's actually going to be an entire culture flip that we've never seen before, where the most respected and valued work is going to be those physical laborers, building houses, repairing your radiators, etc. And I think that's a really interesting perspective that I do tend to agree with. And I don't think robots and AI is going to help bleed your radiators anytime soon.
No. So you don't see a kind of, that sort of Tomorrow's World. You're probably too young to remember Tomorrow's World, but Tomorrow's World was this kind of, 1970s futuristic show where we'd all be having jetpacks to fly around in, and we'd have probably robots doing things around the house for us, and we wouldn't have to do it. Because a lot of politicians say, and I don't obviously believe a word that most of them do say, but many of them say this will be helpful to people because it will mean that you have more leisure time. It will mean you don't have to do some of the things that you don't like doing. But I don't see where the money's coming from. If you're doing less work because AI is doing it for you, where's the money coming from?
Well, it's something Rishi Sunak mentioned this morning, so it's very relevant. And other CEOs, I think the CEO of Monzo, the challenger bank, mentioned this a few weeks ago. Where is the tax revenue going to come from if people don't have a job? Income tax may become defunct over the next 20 years. And I think Rishi Sunak was saying this morning, companies should be not paying we shouldn't be paying national insurance to incentivize more hiring. I don't think that's going to, that's a plaster over a gaping wound. I'm not sure it's going to fix much. But the income tax question is a really interesting one, because if we don't have a job, what's going to happen? And are these big corporations that are worth trillions of dollars, the hands of AI is, the control of AI is under the control of maybe 5 or 6 men right now in the world. And that is obviously very concerning. And out of these centi-billionaires, are they going to voluntarily say, you know what, you should tax my company more because then we can pay universal basic income to everybody that doesn't have a job, and we become a charity, and you can tax us more, and then, everyone doesn't have to have a job. I personally don't see that that's going to happen. Right. And I think, the other promise of AI is that, as you said, we are going to have more leisure time. I think the reality on the ground is that through every major change in society when it comes to technology, we have ended up working harder. And there's an interesting narrative forming in the AI space right now, in that actually we're going to work even harder when we're using AI, because businesses are going to stop hiring and they're going to demand more productivity from us because we can now use AI. So myself as an employee is going to become 10 times more productive because I'm using AI, but I'm going to be on the same salary. Right. So I'm going to be working just as hard. So I don't necessarily believe there's going to be more leisure time, unfortunately.
Right. So on balance, it doesn't sound like it necessarily improves everybody's lives. If anything, it maybe makes them worse.
Well, as I was saying, I'm ever the optimist. So if we flip the narrative quickly, what I do believe is definitely going to happen is the curing of major diseases, the creation of things that we can't even fathom right now that will make our lives better, more healthy, longer. That's definitely gonna happen, whether it's tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years. I do believe the standard of living, I believe inequality will probably increase, but I believe the general standard of living will increase and our lives will materially improve. Lots of people could debate that, but I do think AI is a genie that cannot be put back in the bottle. And because of that, I wouldn't want to compare it to nuclear weapons, but once it's been created, you can't uncreate it. And therefore, because other countries now have AI, just as the UK, US, China has, we must keep developing. Unless everyone turns around and says, no, let's stop this. This is a bit scary. That's never going to happen. So because of that, it is a race. We must keep developing. We must keep working on it. Anthropic, it's the largest, one of the largest companies that has created Claude, which lots of people may have heard of. They have an AI model called Mythos that's been in the news over the last.
I've been hearing about that lately, yeah.
And that's so dangerous that they have not and have said that they will not release it to the public. This is the newest AI model. As soon as they announced it, hundreds of billions of dollars got wiped off the valuations of the largest companies in the world. Yeah. So that just shows you how nervous everybody is. And that was one news story. We might get another tomorrow. Who knows?
I know. Unbelievable stuff. Fascinating, though. Great to talk to you. We must do it again. Thank you very much, Henry Harris Burland, there on the dangers and the profits and the good and bad things about AI. It's quite worrying, actually, in some ways, isn't it? I mean, I'm a bit like him. I'm a bit of an optimist about the way that the world will kind of develop and kind of learn. But yeah, it does sound a little bit scary, doesn't it? Let's talk to Kzia Noble, a political commentator, host of UK Now, and now reform candidate for Kensington and Chelsea. Kzia, great to see you. Finally got you on the show. I don't know whether AI could replace politicians at any point, but it's a bit of a worrying story, that, isn't it?
AI. Yeah, I am worried about it. I find myself increasingly using ChatGPT, for instance.
Yeah.
Which I believe comes under that perimeter AI.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just I've got a problem, I need to figure it out, and I go ChatGPT, and I've actually had to force myself to no, let's use reason, let's work this out ourselves like we used to. So I think it's a bit of a worry too.
Yeah, because I don't really trust it. And it could be because I'm a bit older and a bit too long in the tooth for it. I'm just like. Because I know that friends of mine and people that I've worked with, producers and things, have used it for checking things, and some of it's wrong. It doesn't always give you the right answer, and I just don't really trust it at the moment, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so far, it's actually worked quite well for me, but I'm more concerned about how reliant we get on it and how our brains are turning to mush.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Our brains are muscles. We need to keep using them. We're just reading less. We're relying on ChatGPT, AI, so much more. And I think we're heading for new territory. But as your previous guest said, it's the genie's out the lamp. There's nothing we can do about it now. So we've got to just make the best of it and monitor. It's just like, when we use social media, when the smartphones came out, we started looking at our phones a lot more. And now people are starting to do detoxes and starting to monitor how long they're on their phones for. So I think that people will learn to manage it and monitor it in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of genies and bottles, I wonder if there's a genie that you could summon up to make Keir Starmer disappear, because that's what I would like to see. I'd like not to see him anymore. Would you, please bugger off?
He not going anywhere, I don't think.
Oh, no.
I don't think he's going anywhere, because he's very useful for the left wing, for Labour, because, he U-turns on everything. So he just kind of goes with whatever the left wing backbenchers want. He just kind of appeases everybody, doesn't he? So I think they quite like having him there.
Yeah.
He's useful.
Yeah, I guess so. But even the Labour government and the Labour Party seems to be working out that he's not actually fit for purpose anymore, and he's actually doing more harm than good. I mean, you're running in the local elections in London, which is likely to be a great day for reform and a terrible, absolutely terrible day for Labour. What are you finding? Forgive me, I don't know what the Kensington and Chelsea council is. I presume it probably is a Labour-run council, is it?
So basically the ward that I am going for, which is Queensgate ward in Kensington and Chelsea, is actually the safest Conservative ward in the country, one of them.
Right, okay.
And it's so safe that the Conservative councillors and candidates actually make a joke between them saying, we don't need to go there. We don't need to knock on doors there because it's a safe bet. People don't get leaflets from them. But I love a challenge. I relish a challenge. And I was like, no, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to this impossible ward and I'm going to make a difference. And I've been knocking on doors, and actually it's been mainly very positive responses, very positive. A lot of people mentioning, funny enough, generic. That's one I keep getting, which is, great. I'm so glad you got generic.
Well, in a good way, yeah.
Right. In a good way, in a really good way. It's, just one of those things that, that was the thing that seemed to be something that people in that area really appreciated. So again, another smart move from Nigel Farage. Getting him on.
And what do they say about, if they are, say, Tory voters, I assume it's because Kensington and Chelsea is an interesting borough, isn't it? Because it's got some very poor areas and some very wealthy areas. And I'm assuming if your Tory area is Tory, it's a wealthier area. What sorts of things are they saying that they don't like about the Tories then? Are they saying that they feel, because I hear a lot of Tory voters saying, we're never going to vote Tory again.
Okay, so the area that I'm in, the ward, is extremely wealthy and it's a nice area. Again, I wanted to go for a challenge because the poorer areas of Kensington and Chelsea are getting a lot of good response and a lot of people are going to be voting for reform there. But I wanted to do something a bit more challenging. It's a nice area. People are very worried about splitting the vote. So they're worried that it might go to Labour if they vote for reform. They are worried about that. But I'm trying to show them that it could do better. So what I've noticed in my ward that I'm running for is that crime is creeping up.
Yeah.
Crime is really creeping up and people are starting to become aware of it because what you've got around that area is Earl's Court, and Earl's Court is full of migrant hotels, full. And I've said for 2 years now, you cannot contain the problem. It doesn't just stay in Earl's Court. It doesn't just stay in that road. It starts going, it starts spreading. These guys that are in those hotels, a lot of them are unhinged. They've got nothing to do all day. You think they're just going to be good boys and stay in the bad areas of Earl's Court? No, they go to the parks. They go to Hyde Park, Kensington. They hang around the schools. And those people are starting to notice it. And I'm saying to the residents, this is Conservative. This is what the Conservative Party have allowed. They're the ones who are allowing these migrant hotels to pop up everywhere around you. And you're only starting to feel, you're just starting to feel the consequences now, but give it a year's time and what's it going to be like? And I believe that a lot of them are experiencing that now. It's going into their bubble, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And also so many of them, and I see it. I mean, I was in Shepherd's Bush the other day, because we're doing a show. Yeah, absolutely. But there's at the end of Shepherd's Bush Green, and I know for those of you not in London, this is a bit London centric, but there's a kids' playground at the end of the green, and there were these three guys who were in there just smoking weed. And you could tell that they were migrants. You could tell that they were about 19, 20 years of age, and they didn't look particularly threatening. But I thought, I was with Pooch, my producer, and I said, if we went in there, we could probably have a problem immediately if we tried to say to them, what the hell are you doing sitting in a children's playground? Get the hell out. And it's a problem.
But it's happening in my area. So we've got, I don't know if you know Brompton Cemetery. So So it's very nice because it's not just a cemetery. It's actually a place where kids go to learn to ride their bikes. It's got like this massive kind of like lane that goes right through it. It's a very pretty cemetery. And I used to go in there for a walk like once a day, and I was, getting followed by men.
Yeah.
I'm a woman in her 40s. So I was thinking, if I'm getting approached by weird men in the daytime, I can't imagine what's happening to younger women who aren't going to give them such a hard time as me. Yeah. And I remember I went to the police and I said, because I had one guy threaten me because he thought I was a rival gang leader. He was totally mad.
Oh yeah, because you look like a rival gang leader. Yeah,
exactly. I fit the description.
Yeah.
So I went and told the police. They said, "Yeah, we've been having problems with these kind of guys. Most of them are either on weed or they're psychotic, and I think it's a mixture of both, personally." And eventually, next day, I saw them come in, and I thought, brilliant. There was a police van going around slowly. And you know who they were stopping? They were stopping middle-class women who had their chihuahuas off the lead.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, now I can sleep well at night.
Right.
You know, that's who you're targeting.
But this is the problem. I mean, we said this the other day that, you know, the police are now targeting people who are not criminals and leaving the criminals alone. If you look like a criminal, they don't go anywhere near you because they don't want to. You know, if you're going to shoplift, no problem at all. If you're going to, you know, force your way through a barrier on the tube and not pay, oh, we're not going to talk to you, but we are going to talk to somebody like you or somebody who hasn't got a dog on a lead. I mean, it's just mad. I don't know what's happened to the police.
It's easy pickings. It's low-hanging fruit. It's like they know that some middle-class woman's not going to give them much pushback unless it's me. Yeah. They're not going to get much pushback. We've all got a registered place that we live, so it's easy to penalise us, to fine us. These people, they've got no fixed abode. They're walking around. They're unhinged. They're men that even the police, I think, are becoming wary and scared of actually approaching these guys because they are, so many of them, totally unhinged. And so back to the point that I'm seeing this in the area creep up, and it's like I can't go to the cemetery anymore. I was sexually assaulted in the library at 4 p.m. in the afternoon in front of my 10-year-old. These are things that never happened in this area. It never happened in the daytime. That's what's worrying. This is not 4 o'clock in the morning in a back alley somewhere. So I'm trying. I mean, I don't need to really try too hard, but they are aware of it, the people that I am talking to in the ward, but they've been cushioned from it. They've been in a bubble, and the bubble's now breaking. And I think a lot of them are going to turn around and say, you know what, I've got children. This bubble is bursting, and I want the best for my ward, and they will come out and vote reform if they have common sense.
And this is what's been happening across the country as well, because for a long time, your experience that you've just described was something that people had to put up with in cities, but it's now happening in local towns. You know, I spend my weekends in Sussex, where, you know, it's a relatively different place compared to, you know, the sort of the multi-diverse London. But it's starting to happen there. It's starting, you know, you're starting to see, you know, people wandering around who look a bit dodgy. You're starting to see people doing things that they didn't used to do. You know, it's the whole country is now, there isn't really any part of England, I don't think, that hasn't been affected.
It's Operation Scatter. Do you remember Operation Scatter a couple of years ago? And I said it would be the best thing ever because it will wake up people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know you probably live in a lovely part of East Sussex. My mother lives in West Sussex, and she's starting to say, you know, things are different here now.
Yeah.
You know, there's people walking around, they don't seem, and she's not talking about, because of the colour of their skin.
No.
She's saying it looks like they've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And it's men. There's no women. There's a lot of men suddenly, and
Yeah.
that's worrying, especially for an older lady and people who've got small children.
Yeah, and there's always groups of them as well. It's not just one guy. You know, there's always like 3 or 4 of them, or maybe 6 of them. You know, and you're right. It's not always a colour thing, because quite often some of them are Eastern Europeans. You know, but they're not. Or the only thing is they're not from here, is what we know.
Well, the thing is, Mike, it's very unhealthy for men to not have any purpose, to have any sense of purpose. Unhealthy for anyone, but for men especially, because when I was growing up in London, I never saw men walking around in the daytime on a weekday. It would be older gentlemen, but I wouldn't see, you know, men in the prime of their lives vaping, walking up and down the street, hanging around parks, hanging around playgrounds. It would have been... it would have been very strange to have seen something like that. Yeah. And I'm seeing it all the time. There's men everywhere just kind of doing nothing, vaping, hanging around, no fixed abode, nowhere to go, nothing to do. I think that's dangerous for society.
Yeah, absolutely right. Great to see you, Kzia. Thank you very much. A lot of people giving you a lot of praise on here for being a great guest. We're doing a poll today, Greatest Britain. St. George's Day, obviously. It is St. George. Is it St. George? Is it Churchill? Is it Shakespeare? Or the comedy choice, David Lammy?
I want to say David Lammy just for a laugh, but I'm going to go with let's say St. George. Let's go for him, because he's not doing too well, and he fought a dragon.
He did, absolutely right. Brilliant stuff. Kzia, great to see you. We must get you on again soon. Nice to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Good luck with the election. Kzia, they're standing, of course, in Kensington. for the first time, Kzia Noble. Great guest, absolutely great guest. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You can take part in the St George's Day poll. We are asking, is St George the greatest Briton? At the moment, Churchill seems to be leading at 76%. Coming up in the next hour or so, we will be talking some more about the business of St George's Day, because I'm going to do a little rant about it as well, because I'm sick to death of all these people who go, oh, do you know, he wasn't really English and he lived in Turkey and he never really set foot on the British Isles and all of that nonsense. Graeme Moore's here, founder of the English Constitution Society. He's going to be talking to us about that. Right now, though, I think we've got Sunil Sharma, have we? Sunil, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Happy St George's Day to you. I'll ask you for your greatest Briton in a little while. I've got a pretty good guess that it won't be Keir Starmer, though.
Yeah, for sure not. I mean, he's still somehow surviving. You know, you've got to give him some credit. The guy just, you know, he must have absolutely no understanding or feeling, or just doesn't care about what people think of him. You know, the guy is single-handedly destroying this great country, and just wants to keep going.
I mean, it is extraordinary that he is still there. Let's have a look at what some people were saying yesterday in Parliament, because it was Prime Minister's questions, and he turned up and was quite bullish, actually, strangely enough. Here's Ed Davey, who, again, is not normally somebody that I would agree with, but here he is talking about Matthew Doyle, who's another former crony of Keir Starmer's, who they tried to give a plum job to. Check it out.
Will he confirm today, did he know his office was lobbying for a diplomatic job for Matthew Doyle? And were they doing it on his authority?
Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, Matthew Doyle worked for many years in public service, for me as Prime Minister and other ministers. When people leave roles in any organisation, there are very often conversations about other roles they may want to apply for. In this case, nothing came of it.
Sir Ed Davey. Mr. Speaker, the House and the public watching will note the Prime Minister failed to answer my question.
As ever, the Prime Minister failed to answer my question. And of course, you know, that also gives away, does it not, the mentality of people like Keir Starmer, who's only ever worked in the public sector. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you, Prime Minister. When people leave roles in the job that they've been doing for a while, they don't often have conversations about what other roles they could do, because they normally leave the company and have to go and find another bleeding job. You know, that's the private sector for you, right?
100%. And I think it's the sheer naivety, or just the lack of knowledge of how the real world works. This isn't clearly they have special rules in terms of the real world. Applications doesn't apply to them. But how on earth is he able to keep on going? How on earth is he has any support within that party? Is absolutely absurd. And you look at the hypocrisy and all the things he said towards Boris Johnson, all the things he said towards previous Conservative leaders, and he's outright lied to so many people. He's lied to Parliament, he's lied to the public, but, you know, maybe he just has a different level of delusion within him, that he can just keep on going and keep on acting as if nothing happened and it's a simple mistake. He is destroying this country. Look, I actually, as important as the Mandelson stuff is, for me, there are much bigger issues going on in the UK. He is offering nothing for this country. There's no signs of growth. People's lives are getting worse day by day. If he had any sense of shame, any sense of pride towards this country, especially on today's day, maybe this could be a good message for him to just resign and move on, because what you're doing is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the country. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing your party. Have some shame and just resign.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was saying earlier to Claire Pearsall, you know, it's a shame that we don't have some mechanism in this country whereby, you know, once it gets to this point where literally the whole country wants him to go, but he won't go because he's hanging on for no good reason, that there should be some mechanism by which we can force him to go, or at least, at the very least, force some kind of decision which can be made by Parliament. You know, there has to be a better way, doesn't there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the thing for him is he's obviously never really had that much accountability in his life with the various jobs he's had. So I don't think he, you know, a normal person in a normal environment when they're doing such a bad job, will have the decency to leave, or have the decency to look elsewhere and move on. But because he's never really had that issue, having worked just in the public sector, never had that idea of that there could be somebody better for the job than you, and that competitive spirit within you, and all this sort of stuff. I don't think he actually understands basic accountability, and I think that's why he's still in power right now. I think the scary thing is, what are the alternatives? I don't look at any of the alternatives with any sense of hope within the current party. I think ideally it'd be great to have an actual general election, because everything about what he's done so far has been so bad, whether it's the economy, whether it's social matters, whether it's controlling the borders, whether it's having any sort of control on the numbers in terms of mass migration. There is literally nothing, unfortunately, we can say about his leadership that has been remotely positive. And I didn't vote for him, and I wouldn't vote for him. But at the same time, I do want whoever the next leader of this country to be successful. I think everyone does, regardless of who they vote for. But to see what's going on, it's a really sorry state, and it just makes it just embarrasses us on the world stage. And I don't think that we should have to accept that.
No, I mean, every single American network now is talking about the kind of crisis facing the British government and the crisis facing Britain. You know, not only have we got a land out of control with crime, not only have we got, you know, immigration absolutely through the roof and borders that we can't control, but we've now got a government which is sitting there kind of paralysed. I mean, I asked the question the other day, who's actually running the country? Because they can't be doing anything to run the country. I mean, we heard that that Keir Starmer was running on Monday, after he appeared in Parliament for about 3 hours, trying to justify what he'd been doing over the course of the last sort of 2 years. He had a St George's Day celebration. He issued a St George's Day kind of edict without mentioning England, you know, and you kind of go, what sort of a plank is this guy?
I mean, that really sums it up, right? I mean, he has no pride for England, no pride for English people, no pride for Britain. It sums it up. And I think if you're the leader of this country and you can't even say the country's name, how embarrassing, what an embarrassing state of affairs that we're currently at. And, you know, you're seeing councils across England today not having England flags. It's just, what kind of example does it set to the rest of the country? What kind of example does it set to people in this, to younger children? We should be proud of your heritage. You should be proud of what's gone on throughout your history. It seems like this is only a Western problem. Nowhere else in the world would this be accepted. Nowhere else are you supposed to be ashamed of where you're from. Nowhere else we should be ashamed of your flag. It's embarrassing. And I think, again, he's so out of touch with the realities of what goes on with everyday people. He's just out of touch with the majority of people in this country. So I'm not that surprised that he's making these kind of mishaps, because I don't think he's actually ever been there with real Brits, with real English people. I think he's been in a deluded bubble most of his life, and he's never had any accountability. He's never worked in a private sector job, as you rightly point out. So what kind of accountability has he had in his life?
Exactly right. Have you got any hope that on Tuesday, which I have, it's going to be an interesting day, because Morgan McSweeney is going to be called before the Foreign Affairs Select Committee in front of Emily Thornberry, who will hopefully ask him all the questions that I would like to have answered, i.e., you know, what actually happened on the night that you had your phone stolen? Why, and can you explain what the point was of you not having it backed up? Was it backed up? Was it wiped? You know, what actually happened to it? Have you spoken to the police about the CCTV footage that they may or may not have been able to recover? You know, there are so many questions, because I think he and his phone being stolen are the key to all of this, because I think on that phone is every single piece of evidence that would bury Keir Starmer, bury Peter Mandelson, and probably bury Morgan McSweeney as well.
Listen, I think I am optimistic, and I am looking forward to the hearing. But look, I just think this man, in terms of Keir Starmer, is a different level of delusional that I don't think I've ever seen in many people in my life. I think he's so out of touch and he's so deluded that unless he's literally forced out of that parliament, he's going to cling on and stay on as much as he can. I don't know any leader or any organization anywhere that has been this unsuccessful and still wants to carry on and still continues to carry on and still acts as if nothing's happened, or as if he's doing a relatively okay job. I've not seen this before. So I don't know what it's going to take for him to leave that office. I really don't. I don't. Maybe a revolt within the own party. I think what it really would take is people, because of how the sheer numbers the Labour Party has in Parliament, it's going to take a real revolt from those people. And maybe I think I'm more optimistic after May, when some of these MPs, some of these Labour MPs, realise that if he continues on as leader, they have absolutely no chance of getting re-elected. I think that's probably more realistic of when they'll probably turn on him. Because as of right now,
he surely can't survive the wipeout that's going to come on May the 7th, can he?
You'd hope not. I mean, I wouldn't have thought he'd have survived as long as he has, considering the job he's done, but he's somehow clung on. I think the reality is him getting forced out will come from other Labour MPs. And I think once they get scared of their jobs, and when they realise that with him as leader, they have absolutely no chance of getting re-elected in the next elections, I think that will be the push to get rid of him. It's a shame because, you know, one would want to have some sort of personal pride and have some sort of care about their job, and if they're just inadequate and you're making your country, your people suffer, you think the rational, the right thing to do would be to step aside and let somebody else do it or call a general election. But I don't think he cares.
Well, if he was your mate, you'd go, come on, Keir, you know, for God's sake, you're making yourself look stupid, you're making yourself look idiotic, you're making the country look idiotic, you're making your party look stupid, you know, you've got nowhere to go. Everybody knows that at some point he's going to have to walk the plank and just go. It's a bit like when you're a bad football manager, you know, eventually you know you've got to go. So there's no point in prolonging the agony for anybody else or for yourself, you know, just go.
No, yeah, 100%. You know, he's lost his cabinet, he's lost his MPs, he's probably lost his party, he's lost the country. I mean, what is the need on carrying on right now? Like seriously, what's the idea? What's going to happen in the next few months is going to change anyone's perception or any idea? He must know deep down that he's out of depth for this role. Everyone knows that. We've all been in that position in some points of our life where we feel a bit underqualified or we feel like we're not quite there. The difference is this is affecting millions of people's lives. This is affecting the whole country. And I think the right decent thing to do would be to resign. But as we're seeing, I don't think he has much decency within him. So I think
he really doesn't. Well, he's not human, is he? He's like a sort of husk. He's like some kind of, you know, AI bot. So that's the trouble. Sunil, I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked everybody else. We've got a poll going on St. George's Day today. Who's the greatest Briton in your eyes? Is it St. George? Is it Churchill? Is it Shakespeare? Or indeed David Lammy? That always gets a laugh.
I'm going to go Churchill, and I want to make the point on Churchill because it's something that I've seen some of the criticism he's got from non-ethnically ethnically English people, so people who you know, people like myself whose parents weren't born in this country, because he gets a lot of criticism for some of his comments during Empire Days, and some of the comments he made, especially to Asia. The reality is, it was different times then than it is now. You can't compare 2026 social norms to 1940 social norm, 1930 social norms. That's the first thing. The second thing I'll say is, had Winston Churchill had we not won World War II, had he not taken us to World War II, what would be the state for British Asians had that not happened? And the reality is, we wouldn't be living the lives that we are right now. We'd be occupied by either Nazi Germany or the Japanese, and the things that they had planned for the Asian community or for that subcontinent was absolutely horrific. So I think that's maybe my reminder to some people who have that kind of, who keep talking about some of the comments he made and some of the things he did during his era towards Asia. Without Winston Churchill, a lot of these people would not even exist. So I think that needs to be taken into account when you talk about Winston Churchill. Had Winston Churchill not won World War II, what would be the state of Asia and Asian people? I tell you what, they wouldn't be in this country doing what they're doing. They wouldn't be in the United States of America. India would not be thriving as a country as it is right now. Other parts of Asia. So I think that's a point that people really need to listen to and really think about when they talk about Winston Churchill. He is, for me, the greatest Englishman by far.
Interesting. Great. Sunil, good to talk to you. Sunil Sharma there, thank you very much indeed, reporting into us there on St. George's Day. We're going to speak to Graeme Moore now, founder of the English Constitution Society, talking about St. George and the whole idea of the myth, the man, the celebration of it. I've got this from the Maxter, who says, like your tie, will you wear one for St Andrew's Day, St David's Day and St Patrick's Day? Great show. Well, I can just wear the same one, can't I? Yeah. Because it's all on there, isn't it? You know, that's the whole point of the Union flag. It is all of those countries. Northern Ireland, certainly, not this republic, obviously. Scotland, Wales and England. There we are. I'm sorry I don't have an England tie. I should probably have one, but there we are. Laura Jane says this, Mike, loving the tie, it looks fab, proud to be English and British, I'm proud of our history and culture. Something us Brits do better is heavy metal. Off to see Def Leppard and Iron Maiden this year, two great British bands. Oh, they certainly are. We do metal rather well. Another one, as an American, I have great respect for the good people of England and Great Britain. My God, you held the line in both alone. Stand tall, my friends, this too will pass. Happy St George's Day from the USA. From Judith Goat, thank you very much indeed. Let's say a very good morning to Graeme Moore. Graeme, nice to see you.
Good morning.
Happy St George's Day.
And you.
Good to see you. I mean, I don't feel quite so bad now because I thought, I said to Pooch this morning, I've got a Union Jack tie or a Union flag tie, but I haven't got a St George's tie. But I see you're not wearing one either, so that's all right then.
I have got one.
Have you?
Yeah. And just to let you know, that hasn't got the Welsh flag on it. So
is it not sort of buried in the background somewhere? Isn't that the way it goes? Because it's like a sort of, I mean, there's no Welsh dragon, but there's a kind of, isn't there a red line or something?
As far as I'm aware, the actual Welsh flag only came about in 1947.
Oh, yeah.
But the original English flag is actually a dragon, or some people call it a whiffin. There's a two-legged dragon and there's a four-legged dragon. But just to make sure people are clear on this, the very first patron saint was St Edmund.
Okay.
Right. So, and again, he was killed by the Vikings for, I should say, because he would not renounce his Christian faith. So he's the patron saint of the English, and England are very lucky to have two patron saints.
Yes. What do you make of? I don't know where Edmund was from. Was he from England? Because one of the things that I'm actually going to have a rant about in a little while later after you've gone is these sort of lefties who come out every year and go, well, of course he wasn't really English. You know, George was Turkish. He never set foot in England. You know, and they come out as if that makes a difference. I mean, I don't think it does, to be honest. But I mean, what do you make of those sort of people who poo-poo the St George kind of myth, if you like?
Right. So there's two elements to that. One is that St Edmund is from Anglia, or what we now call East Anglia,
right?
Particularly from Suffolk.
Okay.
So he, if you want to put it this way, he's a full Comanche Englishman.
Right.
Right. St George technically was a Roman.
Right.
And part of that myth of St George, which I am not negative about, right? So I'm not negative about because it's still about England.
Yeah. Right.
But again, I always refer back to, yes, he was Roman, some say he was Greek, some say he was a Palestinian, but the slaying of the dragon often is referred to the slaying of the English and the English dragon. So people need to understand there is an original English flag that we used to take into battle.
Right.
But there's many things.
And what sort of year are we talking about there that we used to take into battle? Are we talking about the Crusaders and that kind of thing?
It was prior to the Crusades.
Right.
So if you're looking at someone, so for example, Wessex, if you're looking at King Alfred, etc., you're talking about a flag that the English in this country, in the year 800, for example, recognised as, and our enemies recognised as, the English.
Yeah.
Whereas the St George's Cross, if I remember rightly, didn't come about, I think, until the 14th century.
Okay.
Right, so there's a big space of that. But I always say to people, we are such a special nation, and England is a nation, and we get two saints.
Right, indeed. So how did the connection get made between George, if he was indeed whatever he was, whether Palestinian or Turkish or Greek or Roman, how did he get adopted by England then?
He was, I wouldn't say adopted, he was more forced upon us by the Roman Catholic Church, right? So when you realise that he was actually a Roman Catholic, whereas Englishness is, and especially after Reformation, we were Protestant.
Yeah.
So there's a rule, a law as a nation. We will not be governed by anybody else.
Right.
We have always been rebellious, right? We are a rebellious people in England, right? So it was more forced upon us by the Roman Catholic Church, not Orthodox Christians, because they have saints, but they would respect, the Orthodox Christians respect St. Edmund because he never renounced his faith or Jesus Christ.
Right.
That's where all of that comes from. But again, it's all about celebrating England. So as the English Constitution Society, what we talk about is what is England delivered to the world. So you've had some excellent conversations this morning about AI, right? So who was it that invented the first computer? Well, it was first invented by Charles Babbage, an Englishman, in 1832.
Wow.
And it was a mechanical device. And then you had an analytical device that he also created. So it was analysing as well as just being a mechanical calculator. Then you had Tim Berners-Lee.
Yeah,
right?
the internet guy.
He was English.
Yeah.
Right? Again,
I think he's still around, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he is.
Yeah.
But neither of these people patented their inventions. They deliberately gave them to the world.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be a very wealthy nation.
Yeah.
And then from that stemmed computers as today. You wouldn't be doing, for example, this type of show on the internet if it wasn't for them two primary inventions, and they come from England.
Yes.
And the English.
Yeah.
So we've also got a set of laws, what's known as the common law, and the common law and our constitutional statutes, which give us rights against the state, came from England. We exported that to the United States of America with their constitution. We exported the English language with that. And people must understand that we are being attacked. And when I say we are being attacked, I mean the English common law. The group of people that absolutely will not talk about England, don't like England, don't want anything to do with England whatsoever, are, in this country especially, but other countries, what we describe as the uni party.
Yeah.
And part of that attack is on the common law jurisdiction, right? So one of our greatest judges, for example, I could name him, he was the framer and drafter of the English Bill of Rights, right? And his name was Lord John Somers. There was another guy called Lord Chief Justice Holt, right? And when you explain that to people, they say, well, who are they? But if I was to say to you, name me a framer or drafter of the Declaration of Independence in America and the people that put in place their constitution, people would immediately say George Washington.
Yeah.
Right? So the education and of how great England is and what we've done for the world is removed from the curriculum. By the way, this was exceptional in terms of the way they did it in the early 1970s, because we went into the EEC, now called the European Union, unconstitutionally, because it was against the English Bill of Rights. Right? So there, in the English Bill of Rights, there is a supremacy clause that no one can govern us. And it was unconstitutional to do that. So when you start talking about laws and England, I'll give you another great example. If I said to you, who stopped slavery? What would you say?
I would say we did.
What's we?
We, as in England.
Right. So you've got that right. It was the English, not the British.
Yes.
Right. And the reason for that
well, Britain's a relatively new concept, isn't it? I mean,
Correct.
my parents are both from Scotland, so I've got kind of an interest in, I mean, I actually, strangely, for somebody who sits here and talks about England in the way that I do, I don't really feel English. I feel as though I'm British and Scottish, because I was born in London, but my parents are both Scottish.
Well, that is a fantastic way of looking at it, because what I'm going to say to you now is quite simple. If you feel Scottish, right? By the way, British is not because you've got Scottish parents and Irish grandmother. Right. It came from the British Nationality Act of 1948 and 1981. Right. What that act did, and it was brought in by Clement Attlee, a Fabian, right, after the Second World War, which we lost to the Soviets, right? It was a strategic mistake to side with the Soviets.
Okay.
What they did was put that law into force, and by doing so, and here's the kicker, they removed part of the English Constitution in the Act of Settlement that states that you cannot have a position of authority, you can't be an MP, you can't be a mayor, can't be any of them things, unless you are born of English parents, right? Plural. That means people like Sadiq Khan could not be a mayor.
Right.
David Lammy.
Well, that would be good news.
Well, exactly. So, getting back to what you've just said there about Scotland, if I was to say to you the Declaration of Arbroath, I believe was in 1320, I'm not Scottish, right? So if it was in 1320, if I was to say to a Scotsman, right, the Declaration of Arbroath is British, I would get what we call a Glasgow kiss.
You would?
Right?
Yeah.
But yet when you talk about the Magna Carta, which is English, people want to call it British.
Yeah.
And I say it is English.
But this is the interesting thing, isn't it? Because as I say, Britain is a sort of construct, isn't it? Because it became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is its official name, because it's a United Kingdom. It was made up of several kingdoms. It was not one country. Politically. So there isn't I mean, I used to have this argument when I was in Scotland, because I used to like winding the Scots up because I could. And I'd say, look, you don't have a country because you haven't got a passport.
Yeah.
But actually, that's not strictly true. You know, the only reason we've got a British passport is because that happens to be the way that we do it. But actually, it's not a nationality in a way, is it?
So that, again, is a correct statement. It only became a nationality because the British Parliament created it in 1948.
Yeah.
In the same way as Joseph Stalin created Soviet when he was the Commissar of Identity with the USSR.
You're right.
So you have to understand that Soviet is the same meaning as British.
Yeah.
And I'll give you another example.
And that's why an awful lot of people in those satellite states who have since left the Soviet Union and have left Russia to be Russia have got their own identity, like Ukraine. And of course, there's a big argument that goes on between the Russians and the Ukrainians who say, well, actually, the Ukrainians say, well, actually, we were here first. You know, the Ukrainians were a country before Russia was ever a country.
So there's lots of arguments. So, but the geopolitics of this stems from ideologies that are forbidden in England, right? So if you was to read the Housby's Laws of England, without boring people, and I'll get to the point with this, 4th edition, volume 8, paragraph 1310, forbids under English law Marxism, communism and fascism in England. It forbids it in the civil service and they must be purged. That's what the law book says, right? So the bit that I find fascinating is why is there 141 Fabians elected to Parliament? Why have we got a Fabian cabinet again? And why was a guy called Sir Jeremy Haywood, now deceased, the cabinet secretary when he was a Fabian executive, a committed Marxist? And then you start to see what they've done. They've taken over our institutions. And again, England and the English common law needs to be restored. Getting back to Scotland, Scotland is a Roman law jurisdiction. If you read the old law books, which I've got many of, I mean hundreds of years old and originals, what it actually tells you is there is a political cancer, an ideological cancer, and it is Roman law jurisdiction, what's known as administrative law, in England, and it was created and caused by the Acts of Union. Even A.V. Dicey changed his mind on the Union. So I'm not necessarily against 100% changing things by saying void the Acts of Union, because we would just go back to a common law union. So a brotherhood of nations, right? Even though we all take the mick out of each other, that's part of who we are. But the most important thing is you need to abolish and restore the English constitution, because once you do that, all of your problems will start to disappear. Immigration, for example, people don't realise that in 1690 there was a fantastic speech in Parliament where all of the problems we're talking about today were mentioned then, because they allowed people into the country, and it was nothing to do with race. It was to do with Europeans coming here and attacking our culture and our rights. So again, people really need to understand that the English Constitution is the solution, right? And once you go back to it, that is not disrespecting Scotland. We've got members that are Scottish. They completely understand what we're saying. So there are ways of fixing the problem, but it is restoring the English
Well, the Scots are very proud of their nation, as Scotland, as are many Welsh people. And England seems to be alone in kind of being slightly ashamed of itself. And I mean, I don't talk about me and you, obviously, because you're not, but there is this kind of creeping sense that, you know, we've got a story today, Ellesmere Port, only one example, there's probably loads of others. The council there is telling people they're not allowed to put St George's flags up because, you know, it could be difficult, you know, it might be offensive, you know, and it's like, what's wrong with you? You know, it's a flag. It's a proud flag. It's a flag of our nation. People should be allowed to put it up. You know, this idea that somehow we ought to be ashamed of our past, of our history, of our empire, and all of those things, you know, stems from many of the things that you're explaining today. In that, you know, we've allowed this to happen.
Again, what you've just said, it is portrayed, and it's partly to do with the education system, which has been indoctrinated. Kids are now indoctrinated, not educated. But go back to Granville Sharp. Granville Sharp was a white working class man from Durham who stopped slavery. The case in the common law was Stewart versus Somerset, 1772. And there is a phrase that was used, and that phrase was that English air is so pure, no slave, and I'm paraphrasing, no slave could breathe it. Let the black go free. Right? Why is that so important? Because Wilberforce was on our side. Wilberforce was aligned with Granville Sharp. Granville Sharp was a layperson and presented to the High Court, who had previously opined extrajudicially that slavery was lawful, and he changed them judges' minds, and they made that judgment. That's what stopped slavery. It took Wilberforce 20 consecutive years to pass the Abolition Act, right? And the reason it did was because that Parliament wanted to continue, right? And he pushed that through. So it was an Englishman that stopped slavery, but no one ever tells you that. There's a plaque in the African Museum in London to Granville Sharp. No one ever shows you that. And it says he's an Englishman. He's buried in Fulham, which is literally where I was born. So people need to understand you've got a lot to be proud of as being English, and don't let the Marxists indoctrinate your children into a belief system that English is bad. It isn't.
Yeah. Graeme, great conversation.
Comment on Keir Starmer's post, please. I'm just going to put it on screen.
Which one?
This one.
St George's flag stands for unity over hatred and decency over division. Those are the values I will always fight for. Some try to hijack our flag to spread hate. I reject their plastic patriotism. Yeah, I mean, this is the post that we talked about earlier, where he manages to celebrate St George without actually mentioning England. There's no mention of England there.
They don't do England. If you look at the Fabian Society, they don't do England at all. There's no mention of England on the Fabian Society. But just to let you know, on January the 13th, 2018, I and others arrested Sadiq Khan and Keir Starmer for subverting the English Constitution. So we have been doing things. It went live all around the world that we arrested him, a citizen's arrest for subversion of the English Constitution. This guy is a subversive. If you look into his history from Czechoslovakia when he went out there, you know, there's lots of information on, and I've got lots of history on the Fabians, but that is literally what I would. So in Old English, just to make sure, this would be a new word for you. Right. In Old English, he would have been called a nithing, Nithing.
Okay.
Right.
A nithing. Okay.
And it is the worst possible insult an Englishman can call you back in the day.
Okay. A nithing. I quite like that. It's some word you can
Say it
say.
again.
Nithing.
Yeah.
A nithing.
Now.
He's also a nothing, by the way. There you go. Keir Starmer is a nithing. Excellent. He's been called plenty of things on this show, I can tell you that. Graeme, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in, because really educational, apart from anything else. We must have you back.
Yeah, no problem.
So good luck with the battle, I guess. We will continue to help you fight it. That's been an extraordinary show once again on St George's Day. Are we moving over to?
We're not today, no.
We're not moving over to UK Live.
We do some technical.
We're doing a technical upgrade, whatever that means. I don't know what it means, he can tell me anything. I mean, I just believe it. But we have had a fantastic time, and we hope you have as well. Should we do a bit of Pooch's Pooch before we go?
Here we go.
Have a look at this. That's brilliant. He literally jumps over him. Brilliant. So brilliant. Oh, isn't that lovely? We do that to cheer everybody up, because the news is generally speaking so awful. And also, you might have noticed we've got a few herons knocking around. We've got heron of the day. Or have you got one? No. Are we finished then?
Yesterday's heron of the day. Yeah, because we've got. Can we show the wines?
It's an early cut today for me then, because we've got to do Plank of the Week and Plonk of the Week. We've got Plank of the Week coming up very shortly. Goes out Friday night. Plonk of the Week. Are we going to show the wines?
Yeah, on the chat, the wines.
On the chat.
Not on your chat. Sorry.
Not on my chat. What are we doing? You've completely confused me.
You could read them out on the chat.
Sorry,
I'll screenshot.
What chat? I'm not seeing them. Oh, sorry. You mean on my phone? There's so many chats, you see. This is the trouble. So I'm not very good at this. Here we are. Yeah, look. Here we go. Mike Graeme Show, Thursday, 23rd of April. Viva España. We're going to have a wine for under £10, which is a sparkling wine from Spain. $4.69 from Lidl's. That's not bad, is it? We're going to have a Reventos Blanc online from Brunswick Fine Wines. We're going to have an Alta Aella, which is a Grand Reserve Brut from Spain. I guess that's probably a bit of a sparkler as well. $42.50. Anything else?
Yeah, one more coming up.
One more coming up.
Do they know how many wines you drink during that session?
It's usually about 6, isn't it? Yeah. Here we go. We've got a Pear Ventura anniversary, 38 quid. Where found?
Wow.
Okay, then. I'll go out and see if I can find one on the street. A Leopard, a Cava Integra Brut Nature, 20 plus 50 counts. We do actually do English ones sometimes as well. But today we're doing Spanish ones. So you can watch that, of course, on... and I think Linda Doobly is going to be joining us as the star guest. So we'll see what she has to say about it all. So look out for that.
So you put the live show clip.
A bit of a live show clip before we go. This is May the 6th, at Shepherd's Bush Empire. If you haven't got a ticket yet, you should get one, because it's going to be great. Have a look at this. Welcome to the Shepherd's Bush Empire, the home of free speech, certainly for one night only, May the 6th, right here on the stage in front of me. You'll be here behind me. There'll be loads and hundreds of you will be here watching a fantastic show, Mike Graeme and friends. We've got Lewis MacLeod, one of the world's greatest impressionists. He'll do his Donald Trump. I'm sure he's got a Starmer now. He's got to do a Starmer, otherwise we're not letting him in. He's also very good at Nigel Farage, of course. He'll do that. We've got Intel Lady as well. She's going to do Emily Maitlis, you know, with the fake tan, brilliant. And also the fantastic Bridget Phillipson. She'll also do Angela Rayner and all of those great Labour women. You'll see all of that. We're going to have Right Said Fred going to be here. I'm too sexy for my shirt, right? Too sexy. Too sexy. And then we're going to have Carol Decker from T'Pau. She's promised that she might not sing, so we don't know if she's going to do that. But it's China in your hand, apparently. He keeps changing. That's why I get confused. She keeps me bollocking. And then Pooch, of course, is here producing it. Absolutely brilliant. My kids are going to be here, hopefully helping out. We'll have merchandise for you. You can have shirts, you can have hats, you can have bumper stickers, all sorts of stuff going on. Donald MacLeod will be here, of course, as well, Lewis's brother. He's masterminding the whole thing. Fantastic guests are going to be joining as well. Will Geddes going to be here, our favourite international man of mystery. Marilyn Hawes, our favourite piss artist, she's going to be here. doing Plonk of the Week. Chris Walkey's going to bring a few bottles of fizz with us, but we're not allowed to drink before the show because otherwise that would be a no-no. And then, of course, we've got Anna McGovern. Emma Wolf is going to be here, we think. We've got Stephen Barrett, the world's greatest barrister, right? We're going to get the benefit of him. We're going to be sitting there on the stage, sofas, desks. We're going to have clocks. We must have some clocks, actually. A couple of herons as well. Yeah, I think we'll have a heron or two. Obviously, it'd be nice if we had a couple of dogs to bring on, but we haven't. But we may not be allowed to do that. But it's May the 6th. If you haven't got a ticket yet, Ticketmaster is where you get it. Ticketmaster.co.uk. Look for the Shepherd's Bush Empire. It's the O2, May the 6th. Doors open around about 7 o'clock. It's going to be a fantastic night. I can't wait for it personally. It's going to be tremendous. Absolutely amazing. I can't wait. See you there. Brilliant. It's going to be it is going to be a great night. We're really looking forward to it. We're getting revved up for it, actually. I'm feeling, feeling the sort of the excitement building. Yeah, because we're going to absolutely kick the arse out of it. It's going to be great. Thank you to We Served. Let me show you that again from Hugh Andre. He's going to be there as well, talking about what good works they do. Pooch, brilliant show today. Thank you very much indeed.
Hey? Saying can I have Pooch again because an ad came on during it.
Oh, really?
I'll just play it now.
Okay, go ahead. That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, look at that.
Probably AI.
Oh, I hope it's not AI. See, this is the trouble. Now people go, oh, is that AI? No, I don't know. I mean, I honestly can't actually tell sometimes.
The announcement that you're actually AI today.
Yeah, I've been replaced by an AI person. That's why I swore at the beginning. So apologies for that. I wasn't supposed to do that. My programming was off. It was out. Anyway, listen, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thanks to Charlotte. Thanks to Kzia Noble, Henry Harris Burland. Really fascinating guy on the whole AI thing. Jamie Jenkins, Claire Pearsall, William Yarwood. Killed it today. And Sunil Sharma and Graeme Moore, the last guest there. And Sarah Pochin, of course, who popped in as a bit of a surprise guest. That was great. I'm not sure who we've got tomorrow, but it's bound to be a rip snorter of a show. Absolutely brilliant. I know it feels like there's something happening on Friday, but I can't remember what it is. Anyway, a terrific show. All the guests were great. Hope to see you all tomorrow, says Tony. Yeah, well, I think so. I mean, that sounds a bit ominous. Hope to see you all tomorrow. That phone wars story, by the way, one of the old cobblers. Wouldn't worry about that. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7. And meanwhile, enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy St. George's Day. And if anybody tells you you can't fly a flag, tell them to bugger off. We'll see you then.
Don't you forget now to like and subscribe and all the socials out there, especially our YouTube channel, flannel.